right, everybody. Welcome to the One Up Years podcast for TGS 2008 from Mark. from Mark and John's.
Let's hear you.
From Mark and John's apartment. Studio audience sounds awesome.
And we're going to apologize for the sound quality in advance. So if
Sound quality's gonna be fine.
well, you never know.
I'm not going to apologize for sound quality. Gaff, start complaining because you're going to hate this shit.
Okay, that was one Mr. Christian Nutt of Gama Sutra. And we also have with us here Mr. John Riccardi of 8-4 and this apartment and his accomplice, Mark McDonald.
Partner in crime.
Who has to leave because he's going to a hot date. So Mark, why don't you kick us off? Tell us what you saw at TGS today.
All right, so yeah, we're also handing around mics, so if there's a little pause, if we're not our usual, banter.
Yeah, bring that mic up like you're like talking to it.
Gotcha. All right, so I probably spent the least amount of time here at TGS, so yeah, why don't I start off first? I got to play RE5. Anybody else play a little? I got to play a little co-op action, RE5. Did anybody get into the RE5 theater where the live actor Chris Redfield talked to the audience and prepped them on the
No, that sounds incredibly awesome.
It was amazing. No, he looked like Chris Redfield. But then when he started talking, he was definitely white. But I don't think in part of his audition, they had him speak English because, I don't know, maybe Italian or maybe from Mexico or something. But it was kind of like Scarface telling you about like the USAA. I will defeat you. Yeah, it was hilarious.
So they sat you through a long demonstration, but then you got to play the game. Did you play co-op or did you play single player?
It was co-op. It was two. I got to play the 2-player co-op.
Were you the chick or the dude?
I was the dude. Actually, I was the chick.
I was Sheva.
Yeah, I was Sheva. So you could choose between the two control schemes, which this is the first time. Am I right?
Tank or Gears?
I did Gears. I did Gears the first time, and then I went back to the RE4 controls the last time.
John's Pizza's
I
here.
believe a pizza's arriving.
Do continue, please.
But so this is the first time, right, that the new control scheme in the new latest readabout and the latest
it's
EGM.
Also the first time the co-op has been at E3. I think it was the same level, but you couldn't play co-op.
So, and I had heard things actually waiting in line. I heard that the co-op partner was popping in and out a little bit. I didn't see that ever happen, but I had heard other people talking about that. I know, like, some of the things that people have already noticed in the trailer and stuff like that, like lips aren't kind of matching up to dialogue and stuff. I know they paid a lot of attention to that, so all I can think is that
they still have 6 months to fix
exactly. This is the stuff.
I just have to interrupt real quick and say it said Peace Pot Micro Dot on the screen 30 seconds ago. Keep going.
So anyway, you have the two control schemes and you have two different sections of the demo. You can choose from one of which I believe is the one probably that you guys saw at the Captivate thing, if not E3.
I mean, at E3 there were two different sections of the Shantytown available.
Right. And one was one against the axe guy.
Yeah, one was against the axe guy. One was you're splitting up in like a multi-level area and on two different sides of
and you have to cover the girl that they showed at E3.
So it's actually the same level.
Same demo.
This time it's co-op.
And co-op, and you have the new controls. It's shooter style. Basically, it should just be American style or Japanese style.
Because does it really play like Gears?
No,
because you still can't move while shooting.
Right.
You can.
Exactly. So the viewpoint is like Gears in that your left stick is absolute movement. So when you move left, you just strafe left. When you move right, you strafe right, and you have to actually use the other stick to move around. The other stick is more like the GameCube. The other control scheme is more like the GameCube controls, where you're moving that left stick is moving around your entire view. So it immediately felt comfortable, but not quite like perfect. It wasn't quite like Gears control. It was definitely like evolved from RE4, but I have to say, like, the presentation, the graphics, everything, they show you the trailer while you're waiting there. The trailer completely blew me away.
Well, the trailer shows a lot of the other environments.
It shows a lot of the other environments.
Really cool.
It shows the story. I mean, everybody's probably seen it by now. It hints at a lot of the story stuff that they hadn't been talking about. And it shows a lot of, like, the old, the old characters from the series. You see Wesker in there. It's kind of Matrix-y out a little bit, but anyway, the graphics are unbelievable. It shows some crazy bosses. I'm intentionally not looking at the TV because I know people are like dancing around in their diapers or something.
That's true.
And it's going to take me off my train of thought.
We're Japanese TV distraction time.
So I started off playing the Kill the Axeman level with the new shooter controls, which
and that level is really cool because I kind of complain that it's basically a remake of the first level of RE4, but the scale is way bigger and the scales. It is fun.
Yeah, I mean they haven't shown anything that's gonna disprove the whole super RE4-ness of it yet.
As you're pushing a bookshelf in front of a door,
exactly.
you feel like I've done this all before.
Right. It starts off with kind of that section of a level very reminiscent of that cabin where you're locked in with what's his name, Carlos or whatever, and
Johnny Depp.
It starts off the level this time, they point you out. Tons of guys are coming at you. It's up to the two of you to fight your way out of this thing. And they did say this was kind of interesting. Right now, it's not a super easy game. It has a very Gears-like. Another thing that has Gears-like, and I don't know if they were showing this before, is you're resuscitating your co-op partner
really easily. You just spray a little. You
right.
walk up to them, you spray a little crap on them.
But they don't have much time. Once their health is going, you can see they're down, and then you come up to them and hit them with the thing.
I believe that this TGS demo was tuned to be difficult in order to get fast turnaround.
They said, and this can't be right. They said 1% of the people had actually done the thing which we did, which is kill the Axeman. Basically, the entire
he's really hard.
The point of this level is there's a guy going around. You've seen in the videos. He's the guy with the huge axe, kind of like the chainsaw guy. In that when you shoot him enough, it just knocks him down, and then you have to go after him.
So some people didn't get to see this happen. Did you get to see him knock down buildings and destroy other?
No. Yeah,
I saw that happen.
Right.
It doesn't always happen, but it's pretty.
I've
awesome
seen it in the trailers, and I mean, he is scary. The game, it felt comfortable just from having played RE4, even though the controls were different.
It feels a little too comfortable. I mean, my complaint it is the first level of RE4. I mean, it really is.
No, I don't think they showed anything to say this is not just super RE4. This is not your Code Veronica to RE2.
Right. Well, and when I asked the producer about that at E3, he says it's intentional. He wants to trick you by making you think you know what it is, and then they're going to twist it later.
And I mean, they've hinted at things. I mean, that section in the trailer where you're riding on the back of a truck and people are on the dirt bikes, and they've started to tease other environments. And honestly, I don't even want to see all of that stuff, the other bosses and a lot of the stuff.
Right. I mean, because it's a foregone conclusion. Everyone loves RE4. We're all going to play RE5, so it's good that they're not giving everything away.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people have said that to me, that concern about it being too much like RE4. And my thing is really at this point, maybe the next game I would be tired of that. I will take a game that is a souped up, excellent, better controlling version of that. Now, that said, I didn't do the stuff, you can hand off stuff to your co-op partner. That didn't really become necessary.
In single player, it's really handy because you can use them as just an extra inventory.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah. And then there was another thing, which is the D-pad is switching between your weapons really quickly.
But did you get to play the second part of the level with the new chainsaw guy?
I did, and I actually Did
you kill the chainsaw guy? He's so fucking hard.
No. Okay. No, but and just for fun, I went back to the other control system to see. I thought this was the game was. I haven't played RE4 in a while. I went back to the other old control system, and ironically, because the new control system, they don't just make it that because Japanese people will get sick. I got sick in 10 seconds.
Seriously?
Yeah. Using the old control system, I'm like,
but you're
I'm never going back to this. This
is
the
consummate
horrible.
Resident Evil fan who defended tank controls for your entire existence.
No, I didn't. I never really defended tank controls, but they did work. They were fine with me. But when I went back to the RE4 control scheme after being okay with it, after having gotten used to it, after only having played with the new control scheme once, I felt immediately sick. The viewpoint was just crazy and waggling around, and
so you're definitely going to play with the Gears.
Definitely the shooter style is going to be the way that people are going to play it. But graphically, I can't say enough is 360.
They're both there. Actually.
It's funny, the PS3 line was actually a lot longer than the 360
I think it was also in both Sony and Microsoft's booths as well.
Right, yeah. But this was at the Capcom booth, so other stuff I saw there at the Capcom booth, I'm sure nobody else played Monster Hunter 3.
All right, before you go away, we should talk about the Resident Evil Degeneration movie.
Which you got to see,
afternoon.
And you like to rub it in that you got to see it.
Well, it was the world premiere at TGS of the movie, and you were saying that let me see if I understood correctly. This isn't a real upgrade for Resident Evil. Is that what you're saying?
What, Resident Evil 5?
Yeah.
No. It definitely. I mean, it's I would right now, from what I know, I would compare it as sort of like a Code Veronica to Resident Evil 2. It's everything that you liked about it with better graphics, taken up a notch, a little bit improved. And actually, maybe it's not the best comparison because the controls, they actually did do a little something to the controls, even if they didn't fully take it into the,
Okay, but let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, which one?
Why both? Why do I gotta choose? Where are you going with this? Aren't you talking about the Generation movie? What's up?
Because I'm leaning to the argument about story being a big part of Resident Evil 5, where it wasn't in 4, because Degeneration honestly stands as the bridge between 3 and 5. Because, when we talk to them about Resident Evil 5, they've talked a lot about this ties back to the story, it builds in, and Degeneration proved all that to me.
Right.
I'm a big Umbrella Corp fan. One of the things for me,
it's all about Tricell now, man. Resident Evil 5, get with the Tricell.
Well, and there's one in between that you don't even know about.
Really?
Yeah. When you see Degeneration, the thing about Degeneration is this.
So is Degeneration the Metal Gear Solid 4 where it goes back and tries to explain everything that happened up until then? Because you were saying that the story finally made sense somehow.
Well, yeah, Veronica answered a lot of questions, right? And it is ironic that Claire was in that because Claire is in Degeneration, and Degeneration answers a tremendous number of questions. I almost think for a lot of fans it may answer too many questions just because, there's something about the mystery of it all, right?
Right.
You're like, well, what's happened with the virus? Who's behind all these research projects? Why are they doing all these, these things with why would you even experiment with weird viruses?
Right.
It's all answered. You learn so much about.
So it's canon though, the movie, because it's not like the real movies or whatever where it didn't actually fit into the story.
Yeah, no, this movie is absolutely hardcore canon. It gets down to here's what happened at the end of Raccoon City.
Right. So it's Claire and Leon again, right? We should explain everybody, because some people, honestly, I was talking to some people today that don't know. This is like a CG only movie. It's going to be in theaters.
Right.
Okay, like Advent Children, hopefully a little more exciting. Hopefully I don't fall asleep during it, but it takes place.
You won't fall asleep. The action in the movie is pretty much nonstop. I think it's about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes long.
How's the CG? Does the CG look as good as Resident Evil 5? Better?
Yeah, I think the CG is where a lot of people will say, well, is this really a movie? And I'm using that theatrical release context of it. Is it a movie versus is it a movie? And it's definitely a movie, but it's not a movie. It's no what was the Final Fantasy movie? It was
Advent Children.
Spirits Within.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so they do not have an entire island of Hawaii devoted to the server bank to render the video out, right?
Right.
Because who has resources for that? But they do have a good voice talent cast. They do have a really great story that's going to answer a lot of questions, and it fills in so much of the canon that this is a really, really big part for Resident Evil fans.
Right. Well, yeah, so when is that coming out? Is that going to bleed into RE5 time, or do they talk about it?
What on earth is happening on the television?
All right, I think we just need to turn. I think.
Oh my gosh!
All right, I think we just need to turn this off. This is not. I'm trying to keep us on course here, and
it's part of the fun. The background television from Japan is fantastic.
Yeah, but if you're listening to it on the radio, probably not that fun to hear people just go, "Whoa!"
They're gonna laugh out of it. So what do you want out of the movie? Where's the expectations? Everyone I talk to is you're going to watch this.
Yeah. So
and I said, yeah, and they're like, well, it's going to be terrible, and it's not terrible. It's just.
But when does it come out?
It comes out later this month in Japan, and then there'll be a limited run. It's going to show in New York. It's also showing in Los Angeles. I think that. What? Is it full movie length? Yes, it's about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. I think the total running time is 97 minutes.
I actually really wanted to go see it, but my schedule was really limited. I couldn't be everywhere at once. Is it recommend? I'm a very casual Resident Evil fan. I sort of dabble in the series. Is it worth my time?
I think it would be more worth your time as a casual fan because it helps make the series make a lot more sense. Because part of 4, for me as a fan, especially of the canon, was what's going on here? How does this tie into anything? And I think they're going to have a hard time ever relating 4 back into everything that happened because the story of what were they? The Guado? Is that the right name? Was this the Ganado?
I think you said guano. Okay,
I said Guado, but yeah.
All right.
It's like Ganado, right?
That was it. All right, that's enough Resident Evil. So in the Capcom booth is the single most important thing at TGS, and that is Monster Hunter 3 Try for the Wii.
Dude,
and
the lines.
The
lines.
So, when we're taping this, it hasn't been the public days yet. It's only been the business days. And the line today to play Monster Hunter Try was 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I think the line tomorrow during the public day will probably be 12 hours.
Don't they cut it off at some point?
They'll probably cut it off tomorrow, like within the first 10 minutes of TGS. So did you play it? Did you stat through that?
No, I did not. I'm guessing like very few of the Western press actually did. But here's my thing about Monster Hunter Try, and I would love to talk to somebody that did play it, because basically it seems to me like, okay, it's cool. The one thing you're adding is like the underwater parts, and I'm kind of like a self-hating Monster Hunter fan.
Well, I mean, we all come from the PSO, Veterans Club, and we all wanted to love Monster Hunter.
I mean, I've played it on the PSP, like, despite a lot of reservations about the game. I'm just like kind of addicted to it.
Now that you live in Japan, do you play it in because the big thing about it in Japan is that people here will play ad hoc, like in a group setting. Do you do that here?
I mean, I did end up doing it. A lot of people that don't really play games do play it here. It was kind of like a weird adult Pokemon phenomenon, but the Monster Hunter Try, the thing that its big new thing is like you go underwater and you're fighting, like you're doing the Monster Hunter stuff underwater.
Is that is that just a visual sort of thing, or is it actually change the gameplay?
Well, I haven't played it, so I can't rightly say, but what it looks to me is like taking the out of any 3D game, swimming is usually like a problem area. And to me, I mean, watching the demo, you're swinging your sword, it does it in like a big, crazy 360 arc, but like, even Mario Galaxy, that was like one of the parts that was like a big time problem. Mario Galaxy was the 3D swimming kind of area of it. And so I'm like, Monster Hunter already has like a few problems in the like control department as far as I'm concerned. Like, I'm not sure underwater is exactly like the place that I'm really excited for them to go. But that said, Monster Hunter always has looked amazing. That team completely.
It looks good for a Wii game for sure.
It looks amazing for a Wii game. I mean,
definitely one of the best looking Wii games.
It might be the best looking Wii game that's ever been. And the Monster Hunter it should be no surprise the PSP games are as good as they are. And the last thing I'll say, I don't know if I've mentioned this on yours before, but I think a big reason why they went to the Wii is that it's not going to be a hard port from the Wii to the PSP, which is where everybody plays Monster Hunter here in Japan, at least.
I kind of say what's interesting to me about sort of indirectly about Monster Hunter is the way it sort of re-kick-started the PSP in Japan. There seems like a little more original PSP games at TGS this year. I mean, some of them are Monster Hunter ripoffs, naming no Koei type names.
Right. Koei or Phantasy Star or,
Final Fantasy Agito 13.
Yeah, to be fair,
I don't know, Agito.
Monster Hunter is still
we'll
one
see.
of the only games on PSP that actually sells. Most 90% of PSP games here don't really sell.
Right.
But the hardware itself does sell. I mean, the hardware itself is doing fine. Like, the hardware itself is doing great. It's only when you compare it to the DS that it's not.
Well, it's interesting because you never in any territory do you see like PSP games with the frequency compared to the sales of the hardware selling. You would just expect things to be selling better, just in general.
So actually, I'm curious. I saw some PSP games, but I didn't get to play some. I'm curious people who played like Patapon, and Loco Roco.
I played both.
I
played both of those.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Loco Roco.
And Resistance was there.
I didn't get to play
a lot of stuff.
Resistance I didn't get to play, but it was at E3 as well. But so with Loco Roco 2, like the main game is still really similar to the first. There's some new power ups. You can get an afro. As if the game wasn't racist enough, you now get a giant afro.
I was watching over someone's shoulder, and it could have been Loco Roco 1, just what I saw, which granted was like 2 minutes. But I mean, what's the big difference?
So the core game, they added an afro power up, and they made it. The big thing was the problem with the first game was it was too easy to just go through the levels, but it was too hard to go back and get 100%. So they made it. They tried to rebalance it to where like your first trip through a level will be challenging yet rewarding.
Dude, we cannot dismiss the afro hair that quickly. The afro hair.
What do you want to say?
But what am I saying? I'm like, it's.
I joked that it's racist. It's not really racist. What do you want to say?
Yeah, but don't you think it's going to get a reaction in the Western
world?
world?
Like, does Afro Ken the dog get a reaction then?
Dude, it totally.
Wait. I mean, what's the big deal with afros? I mean,
Move on. I was just joking. Okay, it adds. There's also there's a multiplayer mode. It's a mini game where you're actually directly controlling the locos. You're the locos, or they're called. You're not moving the level. You're actually moving them. In fact, there's a bunch of new multiplayer modes. Sadly, those weren't playable on the show floor. We saw those when we went to Sony the other day. So there's a bunch of cool new mini games, but really it is more of the same. I mean, it is. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas Patapon 2 is a huge upgrade. It's everything. As a huge Patapon fan, like. Yeah, Kono made Logrogo too. Yeah, Chris Nast. Patapon 2, did you play Patapon?
A little bit.
You should have played it all the way through.
No, I played a little bit of it, just at trade shows, so the final game was very different from what was shown.
Oh. Well, yeah, so Patapon 2, the big thing is they added a hero unit, which is really, really strong. So, like, you have this one unit that has a lot of abilities and cooler attacks, so that it kind of gives you more of an avatar that you have on screen. You're not just controlling this army. You still have the army, and there's 3 new types of Patapon, including flying Patapon. So that, in the paper, rock, scissors hierarchy, that adds like a new element of strategy to it. But then there's multiplayer. There's 4-player co-op, which is a big deal. That's huge.
Yeah.
There's 4-player co-op.
What are you just saying there? I mean,
I'm saying it's so funny.
Well, the 4-player co-op mode is
so excited about Patapon. I mean, you really,
I love Patapon. Well, everyone loves Patapon. You asked me to talk about Patapon. All right. No, those games are great. And there's also both those games.
Did we cover every PSP game that we thought was cool?
Hold on. Shane has more PSP games.
Go
ahead, Mark.
Well, okay. The other cool thing about. I was say about Patapon. But yeah. So what else did you play, Mark? Is this it? You only went to Capcom? Is the only booth you went to?
Capcom was the first place I went to. I mean, I didn't get to play. I got to see a little bit of Let's Tap, which
Garden and I played Let's Tap today.
So yeah, do I understand that correctly? Does it come with like
it comes with the Let's Tap box? Yes,
really?
Yes.
Interesting.
What I found interesting about Let's Tap, and this is of course not the game, was that like Yuji Naka was standing there watching people play Let's Tap, like
still there
the whole
end of the day.
show.
You ever buy any of those frozen panini, like Healthy Choice frozen dinners? It's like someone had one of those and they're like really stoned and they're like, you know what? I'm going to make a Wii game. And what I'm going to do for a Wii game is after I heat up my panini, I'm going to take the box, lay it on my table, put my Wii remote on it, and I'm going to tap on it.
And make bank because this game is going to sell so well.
Which is no doubt how they also wound up at the visualizer part, which is what Shane and I were checking out also. Where it's like there's some techno music and you're tapping on the box and it's making paint splatters on the screen.
I just found it interesting that that Yuji Naka was sitting there watching it. What I found disinteresting was that it was like it looked like the
rest of the game itself.
Well, okay. What I'm talking about is that like I found it like odd that the visual choice was that sort of like like Tron meets like men's restroom sign sort of like aesthetic. Like what is going on there? Like I would think that like in terms of if you're pandering to the sort of we like anything that is retarded audience, like you would go with like something cute and me centric.
Right. Actually, I thought the aesthetic was pleasant and refreshing and not what I expected. Yeah,
really.
Compared to like
minimal, like to
compared to the other like kiddie carnival games or like the other like party games. It's very much a party game.
To those and make it look good. I mean, anything's gonna look good compared to fucking carnival games.
It's a bunch of mini games, but the ones we saw basically boiled down to track and field. It's like tapping rhythmically, who can tap the fastest.
Dude, seriously, the ones we saw were Brad and Jeff from Giant Bomb playing, and didn't we both agree that the reason they looked happy was because the very attractive docent there who was helping them tap the box?
So seriously, do you need to use the cardboard box to make the game work? What is with Japan? The other thing is like level 5's RPG that comes with a spell book. Have you heard about this?
That's fucking awesome. Okay,
it's cool, but like what?
Step off. That's fucking cool. That's fucking awesome. And any kid that's ever wanted to be Harry Potter is going to be all over that shit. Plus,
it's like Harry Potter meets Spirited Away
stuff to it. Like,
Hey, we're moving with level 5. Level 5.
That was like a fucking leather-bound spell book.
Well, no, first, level 5's
awesome.
Level 5's booth is bigger than Konami's booth, is bigger than Sega's booth.
Yeah.
It was one of the biggest booths there.
Level 5.
Konami's booth still has MGS4 on it. Like, they're trying to pretend like there's a reason to go to their booth. Oh, wait, that game's out.
Yeah, we're kind of like skipping
we're skipping all over the place.
Here. What should we, well,
we were talking about you, Mark, because you have places where to go. What else do you want to talk about?
I played
it looks like you're sticking around here. Mark is still here.
I swung by around through the Sega booth. Was Bayonetta at the Sega booth, by the way?
It was a trailer once in a great while on their screen.
Yeah, so why not?
Because her vagina was up in your face.
The trailer was.
Did you see her vagina? It was.
Yeah. No, actually, because the trailer is covered, but it's like. I mean, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm basically like spread eagle. It was a little like, okay, we get it, but the game looks amazing.
The game does look.
The graphics
the game looks really good.
Fucking believable. The part at the end of the trailer where a giant looking like statue god thing, it's like completely shits all over God of War. It's like it's very much in the God of War Devil May Cry aesthetic.
I mean, but yeah, like does it really bring anything new to the table? Is it just a better looking Devil May Cry with Sarah Palin's vagina? I think it is.
It does kind of look like
What the fuck did you just say?
It does kind of look like Sarah Palin, actually. She does kind of look like Sarah Palin. I don't think they knew. I mean, when they made that design, obviously Sarah Palin wasn't.
She's like the naughty librarian gone to the extreme. But the thing is, right? Isn't this the point? Actually, we don't know what it's going to bring to the table. We all we have is the Japan issue of EGM to assure us that the game's got anything to it, right? I mean, that was literally like the only English information on the game.
But people were playing it. People were playing it this week.
Wait, define people.
I don't know who people.
Seriously, no, that's what I'm saying. So journalists were playing it this week, but it was only
people would be humans and who have controllers.
Like, I mean, not people at the TGS are playing it. Like, it's people who were like invited by Platinum to play it or Sega.
Yeah, there've been limited number of people who have got some hands-on time with it. Finally.
Okay, so there's a behind closed doors thing, because like here's the thing, right? Kamiya is talking a lot of fucking smack about this game, so.
Is he?
Yes.
Yes. What, him saying that he hasn't played Ninja Gaiden?
No, him saying that like
smack, or?
That he'll make the next action. Like I can't remember the exact quote. Okay, but
I think he
wants as far as I'm concerned, because everything he's made so far has been really good. I mean, he's not. I don't know. I don't want to get into my Itagaki bashing or anything, but I think that Kamiya's games have been awesome. So until he makes a shitty game, he's all.
Well, what he said was when they were unveiling the game was that he had done these games, and the next evolution he hadn't seen in what was out there, and this is going to be the true next gen of.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly, the whole like him and Itagaki thing. If you go back and like piece it together, I think a lot of it was like him saying just like, yeah, I haven't really, I don't think the genre has progressed in the last since Devil May Cry 1 came out, and I would, agree if depending on how you define evolved, like you could say Ninja Gaiden like did it way better, and that's probably true, but like a true evolution maybe not, and he's talking up his game that it's actually going to do it. I don't think that's really shit talk.
I don't say it's going to happen, because I think that when you get a genre that starts to be defined and really takes shape, that it gets to a point where you start to see great games in the genre, not games that establish the genre. Like first-person shooters are first-person shooters. Third-person adventure games are third-person adventure games. Real-time strategy games are real-time strategy games.
Whatever you're saying. I think the field is still wide open for character action on this gen, because both Devil May Cry 4 and Ninja Gaiden 2 even though they were both really good games, had huge obvious flaws.
Well, and there's still Ninja Blade.
I wasn't even trying to say that Kamiya can't bring the goods. What I'm just trying to say is at this point, all we have to go on is Kamiya talking about his own game. Man's not objective. That's all I'm saying. So.
Garnet just invoked Ninja Blade. He said in passing that's From's game that's coming to 360. And you know what? I watched you play today. I went back and played it, and like my opinion soured a little bit. Like I think the Dragon's Lair shit is bad.
So it has some real time.
Well, it's funny.
What you're talking about.
Wait, okay, I'm a mini fan. All I'm saying is that I saw Ninja Blade, and I think that it has potential. What I really like, and they're not there yet, is that they want to seamlessly integrate the three modes of the game, or sort of the four sort of modes. And the modes are sort of like, that, as you said, Dragon's Lair, God of War, Heavenly Sword, QTEs. They want to integrate that with direct character action with 3 weapons that have different properties. They want to integrate that with, full-on cutscenes that have narrative, and they want to integrate that with sort of the halfway, what they showed in the demo was running down a building, and that sort of is sort of the gap between direct character action and cutscenes. Right. You're correct. You are directly controlling your character, but it's sort of, semi-scripted. And the thing is, their goal is to not have a loading screen in the game and have sort of you run through the game. And I think that's a really admirable goal. I'm hoping it's a design-oriented game. The demo is extremely short. Like, so it's hard to make a judgment call. But the guys...
It was really short. And the QTE events, I think, left a lot on the table because they're very similar to... I'm going to invoke Legend of Dragoon again because it has that sort of... contracting circle that comes down to where you hit the button, so it's a timing event. It's not just here's a flash of A hit A. It's here's the A button and here's a circle that comes down, and when it matches up with the size of the circle, you hit A. Now that could have been really interesting if they'd done more with it, but all it is like a one-off.
Well,
it's a one-off quick thing.
I find that the demos at TGS, even more than E3, since they're consumer-oriented, and I'm not trying to defend the game because it may actually turn out to be very limited in scope, but what I'm saying is they tend to try to control things even more here with the demos, so I don't know.
Right.
It's a very short demo, very limited.
We're trying to give you a very cinematic look at it and a very quick look of here's what we're trying to capture in the game, not here's a chance to play it.
The guys from Otogi, and Otogi is a really solid pedigree. Some people,
I agree.
So it's not like I'm just interested in this game, and I feel like if it could be more design-oriented, you know what I mean by design-oriented? Like not Devil May Cry, like a box full of enemies. You know what I mean? Like actually... guide your experience.
Hold on, Shane needs to talk. He's
okay,
like,
I just want to say, I kind of shit on this game, but I will say the graphics are really, really good. I think
it's gorgeous.
It looks better than Ninja Gaiden 2. And I did like there's this thing like Ninja Vision where you press the left button and you can see weak points to enemies, but it drains your like magic, and when you turn it off, it leaves you all blurry and confused. It's a cool effect.
And it leaves you blurry-eyed depending on how long you're in Ninja
right,
Vision. Like if you just use it for a second, you come back out and you're fine. If you use it for a long amount of time, then you're really blurred out for a long time. I like the weapon switching. I thought the weapon switching was cool. The combat was a little slow, but being able to go from like dual wielding two fast swords to a heavy sword to a scimitar and use them in different ways, I thought was pretty neat. I was going to say action game.
The risk reward of Ninja Vision I think is really cool because not only is it like bullet time in the sense that it slows down and you can avoid things better, but it also shows you the weak points of the bosses and stuff, which I think is a cool idea. And I like the risk reward balance of the longer you spend in Ninja Time, the longer you're blurry after Ninja Time, or whatever it's called. So you can, you have to gauge how long you want to do things. What I think is not good is that if you fail the QTE type events, so the boss in the demo is this big spider who hooks like two talons into like a platform, and you have to hit his talons, but in between he does QTEs, and like if you fail them, it kicks you back to the beginning of the room, which I think is really stupid because I don't think that like negative feedback is this day and age especially.
Game design.
Yeah, you don't want to experience that kind of negativity. You don't want to waste time when you're playing games, and you don't want to. Like, I don't think that is going to, if they keep doing that, is going to be enjoyable for anybody.
So let me ask about, there's a few other things that I only saw on video, but things that I want to ask probably other people know more about. So, no, what is it, Nobi Boy? So, yeah.
Okay,
Shane just had an epileptic seizure. I want to say, because Shane, I had heard from you about it, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to check this out. I saw the video, and I'm like, really? Really? Is that it? Like, is that what it is? Like, I mean, I'm not saying it isn't cool. The music is very cool. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen it, check out the video. It's like a very simple, basically, I'd call it like maybe Turbo on the Atari 2600 maybe, or basically you're like steering the caterpillar through blocks.
I only saw part of the video. Was it full? Like, the part I saw was like 2D, right?
The part that you saw
the game
was
is not,
everything.
the game is not 2D.
Shane, do you want to take this?
Well, I mean, all we really have to go on is this video. But from lots of things I've heard, that is not completely indicative of what the whole game is.
Okay. That makes me feel better.
But no one really knows precisely what it is. It's going to be revealed more soon. But I think just, what we're given, it was like refreshing and cute and charming. All the things that like Katamari Damacy was. Right. You got from this. The same, same creator, same musician.
Right.
And, it's just so bizarre. Like, I watched it the first thing yesterday, and everyone in that theater, a smile was on their face. I turned to Matt Leone, was about to like cream his jeans. I was like, wow, you love this game. He loved Nobi Boy.
That's a Matt Leone game.
And he only likes one game every 3 months.
I know, seriously, but that's a Matt Leone game.
It's just so out there. You had to take notice of it, and like I'm dying to see more. Whether or not the game ends up being as good as Katamari, who knows? But like, I trust this guy to do something that's challenging and weird.
All it is right now is basically like a short movie.
Yeah,
almost. I mean, the gameplay in it, there's none. You're like steering through a bunch of like big blocks.
I don't think that's
great,
the game based on what I've heard. Like based on what I've heard from people who are in the know, I can't really talk about it. But the thing is, like, The thing I have to talk about, just real quick to clarify, is Katamari is not just cool because it's weird. I think that Katamari is cool because it's really fucking good. Like, it's inventive and the design is good. So I'm not saying Nobi Nobi Boy is going to be that game, but let's just keep that in perspective.
I think it's a really good point, and that we've lost sight of as the mechanic was milked over and over and over for many Katamaris that didn't do anything really new.
Oh god, the Katamari on 360.
So I don't understand the point. Like, so but the video was just kind of weird. You're saying that this is probably not indicative of the game
From
itself
what I
know,
which is very limited, and I don't think this is representative of the game. I think it was just a teaser to get you interested in the aesthetic of the game.
The music was definitely cool, and I liked the aesthetic.
There's a girl fingering herself in a really...
I'm going to turn the fucking TV off if people can't behave themselves.
I was instructed to look at it.
All right, so
other stuff. If you were watching the PlayStation Theater, you also saw Quantum Theory, another PS3 exclusive. This one's from Tecmo, and it's being called Gears M Cry. Did you see this game?
Yeah,
it is
Marcus
Phoenix and like a girl from Final Fantasy shooting monsters in a church.
In like a Ninja Gaiden level.
Okay, so I actually got to talk to the producer of this game today. So I will give you a little bit more, maybe perhaps. Okay, so what we were able to divine from the interview we did is that the game actually takes place in the game takes place in a living tower. That is the environment, and you will explore the environment over the course of the game. And the living tower is actually a dynamic environment. And what happens is as you explore it, like the landscape will change to provide new cover points and new actual like physical objects. And I asked specifically because I knew this was going to be really important whether these will be, actually it was me and Sterling from GameSpy, our friend Sterling, so it was a just shared interview, whether they will be, it will be scripted or whether it will be actually dynamic. And it actually turns out to be both. Like, it will change depending on game events, but it will, in fact, actually, like, the changes to the environment, which are dynamic, will... Yeah, like they will be real. So,
which is all well and good, but the subtext to this game to me was, having heard Wada do the TGS forum and talk about how Japanese development had fallen behind, and the need to embrace, new outside development paradigms. I'm watching this game, and I agree with Shane. I think the first look at this is, here's a dude who's like, his armor no longer looks as medieval as it does Gears of War.
Well, I think,
he's sporting this big gun. He's running through Gothic columns and firing bullets, and it's just not what we used to see from Japanese developers.
Okay, so let's put it like this, and I'm spoiling my whole Gama Sutra interview, which probably won't be up for a while, so you guys better appreciate this.
They'll go read it.
You guys will appreciate this. So
Gama Sutra is real game journalism, and it's the only one.
I don't agree with that assessment, but I find it very flattering.
Excuse me. Where do you work again?
What I'm saying
is, let's move on. Let's move on.
If you want to cut hairs, what Gama Sutra does is journalistic, and what we do is entertainment media coverage.
Look, I'm not so far from you guys. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game. So, I will agree with you, Garnet. I think what you're saying is that, in a certain sense, it seems like a reaction rather than something that came up naturally, right? And I think that is to an extent true. But so I specifically asked, like, where did the inspiration for this game come? Was this something that came from below or above? And what I think people may be interested to know, that this game is a collaboration between some Tecmo creators that have made good games in the past. It's Shibata-san, who worked on the Fatal Frame series, and Kikuchi-san, who works on the Fatal... No, not Tokobot. Please. He's a producer. He makes a lot of things. Don't spoil this. I'm enjoying it. It's the Fatal Frame guys, right? Obviously, we know that the Grasshopper made the most recent Fatal Frame game, so this is what they were freed up to make. So, Shibata-san is actually a big fan of shooters, as it turns out, and he has actually been paying attention to the genre, and he wants to bring in... Well, the thing is, like, okay, so Japanese people are not reputed to be fans of shooters, but if you talk to developers, they're super fucking hardcore, just like developers in America and elsewhere, and they actually have, an appreciation of the genre. And I didn't speak to him directly. I spoke to the associate producer on the game, whose name I unfortunately can't remember right now, but this was, the point is, this is not artificial. It's not completely artificial. I would agree that the main character design hella artificial. It is basically Marcus Phoenix's brother who shops at Hot Topic.
Okay, so that was just a trailer, but on the Tecmo front, did you get to check out again Eye of Providence?
Okay, I got to check out again. And this is made by Sing, the guys who made
Hotel Dusk.
Hotel Dusk.
And this is so
Transmembrane.
cool looking.
Transmembrane, yeah.
It's so cool looking.
Actually, what's really interesting to me is that, so the idea is that it's a detective game, and there's 2 screens. It's held like a book, like Brain Age.
Right.
Yes. And
so I love book style, first of all.
Yeah. The left screen is, so the main character is an FBI agent. And
he's a special FBI agent.
No, they're all special. Right? Like Clary Starling, right?
Yeah.
He's
special agent.
Don't interrupt. Shut up. The left side. Okay, so he is
18 years.
Oh, for fuck's sake! He was involved in his whole family was killed by a serial killer 18 years in the past. Left side of the screen is 18 years ago. Right screen is current events in the same location.
Awesome. It's really cool. Dude.
In the same location.
Really cool.
It's in the same location. So the game is full 3D. The D-pad is...
Well, it's live action. So first of all...
Hang on. Oh, wait. Keep going. Sorry.
So if you played
Hotel Dusk...
Well, it's not... It is live.
Hang on.
If you played Hotel Dusk before, Hotel Dusk was all done in hand-drawn animation. In this game, what they've done is they've used more...
Okay, here's how it works. Okay.
And they've applied a filter over it to give it sort of the Hotel Dusk look, and it results in this really, really interesting art style that looks like pages torn from a book with like magazine pictures in it. It's really cool.
So here's the basic idea. So the game itself, the backdrops are 3D polygon, full 3D, and actually you control it with the D-pad as a first-person game. So you actually navigate the environments. The characters in the flashbacks and throughout the game are full motion video actors who have had like Photoshop filters applied to them.
The full motion video part, because it's
overlaid onto the 3D.
Does it look like Aha's Take on Me?
No, yes, the right hand, the one part does. The flashbacks, because you're supposed to be like having psychic powers to go back to 18 years ago, looks like a negative version of night vision. It's kind of like
obscured. So this is hard to explain, but the characters are weird. The environments look the same. The environments look like reality. And the thing is, so on the right screen, right, you'll see like everything looks normal, but on the left screen you'll see that so in the demo it's very short. The refrigerator in the room is open. You click on it and because it's open 18 years ago, it's closed now. You click on it because that's a difference between the two environments, and you see that the serial killer who killed your family 18 years ago took a beer out of that refrigerator and drank it in that hotel room.
Dude, it's weird.
And as you piece together the events in order as they happen by investigating the differences and the events, like their locations, you discover the things that are going on. It's very short demo. It's cool.
It's very avant-garde.
Is it coming out in America?
Yeah, this is actually okay. So I asked that specific question because Tecmo is a series of, very successful Japanese suspense games, the DS Suspense series, and this game is being developed with the American audience in mind, which is why it stars an FBI agent, etc.
What was the other Tecmo game you asked about, Garnet?
Undead Knights.
Undead Knights, where the storyline is there are 2 royal families that were engaged in like a power struggle, and the one that won, or the one that lost, makes a deal with the devil where they get to have ultimate power to raise zombies to defeat their enemy in exchange for like being undead.
Well, it's actually okay. So
it's weird. It's pretty crazy.
It sort of harkens back to Deception era Tecmo, and I wanted to talk about that with them, but I didn't have time.
My favorite.
You really think so?
Well, this is an aside, but my favorite thing about Tecmo's Deception was the warning contains satanic content sticker.
What I'm going to say is not so much that it's like Deception in terms of like traps. I just mean in terms like very few games have an overtly evil character as the main character, and Deception was one of the few games that really did that.
This one's definitely. I mean, like
your main guy is a fucking demon.
Yeah, it's not like they try to sell it as anti-hero. No, he's not. He's
a fucking demon.
He's not a nice guy. He's not like a dude who wound up in a bad situation. He's like a guy who decided, deal with the devil. Hell yeah.
So they were only able to show me a very limited demo to show you how. So okay, and don't take this the wrong way, listeners. It looked a little bit like Dynasty Warriors in the sense that you're on a battlefield filled with knights, but rather than slashing them down, you grab them by the fucking head and turn them into zombies.
And then they go make more zombies for you.
Right. And then they weren't able to demo these gameplay mechanics, so I can't talk about them. But I have to say that I was really interested to hear that, like, you'll be able to, like, throw them and make human bridges. You'll be able to, like, throw them at doors and break open doors. You'll be able to, like, and anything the zombie was capable of doing, say they're different, you know, they're soldiers, so they have different, you know, abilities. Some have, like, bombs or whatever. As zombies, they'll retain those abilities, so you'll be able to use that to, like, solve puzzles. So it's sort of, the comparison was drawn to Overlord, but it looks like it's not quite like that. But, I mean, but it's super early, promising, and the producer on that one is Kohei Shibata. There's two Shibatas at Tecmo, so don't get confused. And he was really enthusiastic, which is always a good sign, especially from Japanese developers who tend to be a bit reserved in meetings. So
okay, what about the game? A lot of people are talking about, asking about White Knight, which last year was like a really limited, like pretty early thing, but like now they started talking about online, started talking about a lot of stuff. What was the demo at the show? I didn't get to see it.
The big surprise is that last year at TGS they had a playable demo of White Knight Chronicles, and it was a piece of shit.
I mean, it looked good. But it
played like shit.
Right.
This year,
you suck.
You're going to defend it again, Garnet, like last year?
I'm about to defend it. Okay, the big surprising thing is it was not playable this year at TGS, despite the fact that it comes out in 2 months. But today I sat in on the official press conference where they explained all the online modes, and then I interviewed Mr. Akihiro about the game.
Christ's sakes, you're getting mad at me because I interviewed Hino-san and I respected him, and you can't even remember his damn name.
I remembered his name.
All right, go on. What did you find out?
So there's a big trailer of the single player mode. A lot of CG, looks really awesome. You know, looks cool. But the multiplayer, the big deal is it's basically Monster Hunter or PSO. It's lobbies of 16 players. You form 4-player parties. You go on set quests. But what's interesting is you don't play as the hero of the game, Leonard. You play as this avatar. And when you start the single player game, you design this avatar. You can make it a boy or a girl. You design its face, dress it up, whatever. And this is a support character who later, as you progress through the game, they get introduced as a party member. And, yes, Garnet?
This part was really cool. You like this. Go ahead.
Give Mark back the microphone. All right. So that's the character that you go online with. And that character, it's persistent between the offline and online game. Its experience, items, skills, everything is consistent.
So you can stop the single player game, go online, get tons of crazy shit, and then come back to the single player game and kick everything.
You actually have your persistent connection to PSN while you're playing the game, right? As you're playing the single player adventure, you'll see a little email icon come on your screen while you're playing the single player game. You open your mail and it's an invite from your friends, and you go play with them.
What I found out while asking Mr. Hino though is that there are limits. There will be. You can't start the game, start online, and play all the online quests. Okay. It's going to be limited. You can only play things that are to the level of your offline.
So that's what I would. So that's what I was asking. You're not going to go online, get the super sword,
twink yourself, come back,
destroy the final
boss. So that
boss.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the online looks really fun because you can customize your own skills. You can make your own combos. You can name your own combos. Everything's highly customizable. And they showed multi-part attacks where you knock a thing in the air, someone else knocks him down. It looks pretty fun. I think it looks on par with Monster Hunter. I don't know if it's going to be as good as PSO.
Because the one cool thing from last year was the possibility of the custom combo system that it had. They showed some of that. It
looked deeper than I expected, and it seemed like you could really customize what class your character is. If you want to make that character more of a mage, you can. And the online looked really fun. Some of the depressing stuff was right now it really appears to be just text. And we asked about voice chat, and they're like TBD. So they really better add that to the US version.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in Japan people don't like voice chat, but in America people expect that.
So speaking of PSO, one thing. Okay.
So knowing how much I like Japanese RPGs, why are you jumping my ass because I've liked White Knight?
Well, you haven't played it since last year when it was terrible. And if you thought that was good, you obviously have suspect opinions.
What I thought was good last year was I just wanted to see the good side of it.
I think that there was something to it last year, but I think that at least
it was bare bones. It was still however far away.
I mean, it's not coming out. It's not coming out until December here,
right?
So here, meaning Japan, because we're in Japan.
So what I was going to say was,
and it does look a lot better now,
graphically.
So
on the PSO tip, I had heard Phantasy Star Zero, I've kind of dismissed completely because it kind of looks like a Saturn game, and it kind of looks like it's kind of kids,
but it's really online.
So, and what I've heard is it actually is. It kind of pretends that Phantasy Star universe didn't happen.
As everybody should.
And it's actually going back to kind of more of the PSO roots.
It is. And,
did anybody play it? Or
I played it briefly, and the graphics are an issue for me. But
it is a DS game.
It's a DS game. But,
3D DS game.
This is Phantasy Star Zero we're talking about, Christian. Yeah, he's asking. And Phantasy Star Portable for PSP also is a bit of a return to PSO style gameplay. I don't know if you've played that. It's already out here.
Yeah. I thought that was more a return, like not a return, but just a going after Monster Hunter gameplay, like pretty, outright.
But Phantasy Star Zero, it's actually interesting. Both this and White Knight Chronicle come out here on Christmas Day, and they both have 4-player online games. But I think Phantasy Star Zero.
So is there reason to hope there? Because all of us, like I'm talking with Brian and Tahar all the time, and we're all like, okay, what is going to be our next PSO? Because we're all waiting. I mean, How many years has it been? Universe wasn't it. Phantasy Star Portable, like what I know of it, I mean, of course it's not out in America, so we're not really playing it anyway, but it kind of doesn't seem, it seems more the Monster Hunter vein.
Right.
Is Zero going to actually be not too kiddie, like where the PSO fans are?
It's a little kiddie. They really focus on like you can draw whatever you want on the bottom of the screen and send it to your friends in like a chat kind of thing.
Right.
But the basics are there. The basics of PSO are there. But I think that the graphics and the kiddie nature might keep it from being like the next evolution you really want.
Are you willing to give this franchise another chance considering what happened with PSU? I mean, PSU was everybody. We all know we're all in the same boat. Almost every one of us here was huge PSO fans. We were all hugely disappointed, to the point that I didn't even really want to bother with the PSP version of Phantasy Star. We actually did buy it. It's funny, but we haven't got around to even turning it on yet. But I mean, are you ready to give it another chance? Do you think there's a chance that it could possibly come back, or is that should run its course?
I'm prepared to give it another shot because when I saw like Rappies and Hilda Bears, I'm like, I remember all the fun I had.
Right.
But is it just nostalgia that made you say that? I mean, you played the demo, right? So, what about it? Did it have that rhythm? That's the thing that's missing from PSU.
That's what I heard.
That rhythm and balance.
I heard it has the attack rhythm is back. That's what I.
The attack
totally
rhythm,
going off what
the
I
length
heard,
of the dungeons, everything was wrong in PSU. You know what I mean? It was not. You couldn't go home again. Is what that game.
Yeah, the gameplay appeared to be there, but I will say the graphics aren't. And when PSO came out, it had amazing graphics, and this doesn't. So
it is a 3D DS game. I mean, it's not like. It doesn't look horrible as a 3D DS game, but I mean, any 3D DS game is kind of
I think there's reason for hope there. I mean, another DS game at Sega that I was really excited about was Seventh Dragon. And I was a little disappointed with it. Did you play it, Christian?
Yeah, actually, of course. I've had a really regrettably short time on the show floor, but one thing I made sure to play was Seventh Dragon.
It's by Ryoko Kodama.
Ryoko Kodama is one of my top favorite game creators. For people who aren't aware, she created Phantasy Star 1, 2, and 4.
Eternal Arcadia.
She played, Eternal Arcade, Skies of Arcadia, yes, and also Ray Earth for Saturn, which those who waited so long for the working designs version may not realize was really
Mr. John Riccardi translated that game. He's sitting right here. Yes, you did.
He edited it. But, okay, so...
Well, but the problem is she's the producer, but Etrian Odyssey dude is also, and he's so hardcore.
For fuck's sake. Yes. Okay, so what I found really surprising about the game is that it seemed to me that regular enemy encounters were really hard. Was there something I was missing?
No, they're supposed to be really hard. I guess that's the Etrian Odyssey influence. It's not just the character designer. That guy is working on this game, and that's a really hardcore dungeon hack game.
But no, wait. So which guy are you talking about?
The director of Etrian Odyssey.
But
if you played those games, then that influences this game, and
so you start the demo and you're dumped into a dungeon. You make a first level character and you join a party because it's a super old school type game, and the idea is that you'll make a party of 4 heroes like FF1 style. And join up and explore through dungeons. So I did that, right?
One thing you notice that the encounters aren't entirely random. There's a countdown thing, so you know when the encounter is going to happen.
Well, actually, I didn't know
there's a little flower that's
wilting.
This
because I saw enemies on the map screen, right? And I encountered one, and then as soon as I got out of the first encounter, which took it took 6 or 7 turns to beat. There's actually a turn counter on the screen, which is something I haven't seen that much in RPGs. It tells you. I got one guy came up right behind me and fought me again. And the thing is, seriously, at level 1 to fight the monsters in this demo dungeon, I wasn't being that careful, but one of my characters got to nearly low hit points, almost, red zone,
Yeah.
What kind of a game is it? I don't have a clear impression yet. I want to know because also Did you mention about Koshiro doing the music? I mean, the musician is awesome.
Actually, the music was really good. They gave headphones.
Well, I expect that, but yeah. But what about the actual? Compare it to another game. What kind of game is it?
Well, okay. So, the demo doesn't have like town or scenarios, so it's hard to compare those elements. But it's an overview, 2D overhead, exploration, RPG. The map on the bottom screen is like auto map, and the top screen is like your exploration around a dungeon. It's like a put together bunch of 2D dungeon, and that's all there was.
All right, so Shane, I just have to know, what is this? Is something on your list looks like shit war / God on me?
Oh, God!
Exclamation point! What? Okay. What is this exactly?
Those are the two best game titles at TGS. They were both in the China.
There is a game called Shit War.
And there was a Yummy Time.
Is this in the Korean game?
Chinese
booth?
Game Pavilion. But yeah,
okay. How did I know?
Shit War and God on me.
Yeah, all right, so unfortunately there were no screenshots of Shit Wars in the book, but I'm eagerly anticipating Shit Wars.
All right, well, since there's not much info on Shit War, why don't we talk about Final Fantasy 13?
Yeah, I made
instead. I made slightly less anticipated than Shit War.
Jesus
what was of 13 on the?
Okay, well, so today I got to the Square closed mega theater and where all of Tetsuya Nomura keeps his games. And what's funny, the other funny thing is he was hiding behind a screen. I was walking, I was waiting in line, and I saw this little guy hiding behind a screen, and it was Tetsuya Nomura. No, he was wearing leather pants, and the other funny thing is he's fat. Nomura got fat. It's really funny.
He's busy. He doesn't I know. Him at the opera, behind wearing the mask, watching you.
Okay. So I'm gonna go through. Well, I'm gonna go title by title through Nomura because he's ostensibly the most important thing in Japan.
Let's just reiterate this: 45 minutes of trailers, 100% Nomura.
Well, Garnet has something to say. Oh, he's just fixing the mic. The other troubling thing before I get to the Square...
Your mic got unplugged.
Before I get to the Square closed mega theater, which they've had for 4 years, you notice level 5 has a closed mega theater now. We'll get to that in a bit, but... Okay, so... No, the first things are Kingdom Hearts, and... Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep for PSP, I played it. It's amazing. It's super duper good.
So Parrish, after DK7, Sigma, etc., said that, that was maybe the best Kingdom Hearts game. Is that for real?
The combat is better than it's ever been. They changed the way blocking works. Parry, so it's a little bit more interactive.
What I found was interesting or appealing to me is that the new characters that were in the trailer,
the girl's hot.
They looked well.
And she has a different weapon. And
what I meant to say is that they looked like interesting characters.
Yeah, I mean, you're not a Kingdom Hearts lover, but I think this one is gameplay-wise the best they've done.
They're not 6, is what I'm saying.
They just they refine the combat. You parry and you power up your attacks, and it's still mashy, but it works well on the PSP. It uses the buttons well.
That's a good point, actually, because the one thing that I've been really frustrated with in PSP games is that I feel like they don't actually fit well with the platform. It's something, you need to be able to play them easily when you're on the go and stuff like that.
It just feel like they really thought about it, and they focused on specific worlds. It's all like the princess worlds. It's Cinderella, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty. Oh, Mark, Kingdom Hearts.
Mark's actually wearing a pink satin dress right now, guys.
And Mark, Mark, you understand that Kingdom Hearts is a larger IP than Final Fantasy. It's more popular.
What does that mean to Mark, though?
Well.
What does it mean to anybody?
It's a good franchise. Shut the fuck up. All right, the DS game, what is it? 258 days, 3 minus 12, square root of 6.
358 days over Sue.
Yeah, the frame rate is now at least double digits, but it still looks like it's repurposed assets from what's the
Docomo game?
No. What's the GBA game that became a Chain of Memories? So
what I found interesting is that it seems like they did the cutscenes on the PS2 engine.
Oh yeah,
is that
no? They're FMV.
Yeah, they're FMV, but on the PS2 engine. If that's the most exciting thing I think to say about the DS game next.
Yeah, it's 4-player. It's mission based. Looks kind of shitty.
I think it's their Monhun one of rip off.
I don't think it's going to be so good.
No.
But then the best looking PSP game I've ever seen that I am so excited about, which is Parasite Eve, the third.
Zasad
Birthday looks unbelievably good.
And by the way, what it was interesting to me, what was revealed is that it's made by Hexadrive, the guys who made Rez.
Yeah.
For the HD.
It's amazing.
So what type of game is it? Parasite Eve 1 style?
No combat was shown, but there was a lot of real time shown, and the engine was the best PSP engine I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think they're all. I could be wrong, but I think these games are all operating on the Crisis Core engine.
Obviously, Kingdom Hearts is, but Parasite Eve to me looked better than any of the other ones.
If it didn't show combat, what did it show that got you excited?
Well, there was an awesome CG cutscene, and then they just showed lots of real time story stuff that looked really, really good. I mean, I hope the combat is more like Parasite Eve 1, because Parasite Eve 2 was an abomination that offended my sensibilities.
Right. So, I mean, I'm not a fan of the series. Oh. Should I be excited about it?
I mean, it remains to be seen how good the combat and gameplay turns out, but if you are a fan of the first game like me, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this, just based on what I saw today.
So
getting to Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
So the Final Fantasy 13 trailer had a lot of new scenes of airships and technology. All of it was CG. They showed
what I was happy about is that it wasn't, 20 more seconds of the same trailer. Right. But at the same time, it was still cleverly cut up things recycling. It was a lot of recycling.
Right, but you're getting a lot more of the world and the aesthetic, and like you watch it.
Gameplay.
There was a little bit of gameplay. Like the gameplay had been seen previously at that DK Sigma event. It's where Lightning and Namchan are walking through. Her real name was actually revealed. The red hair girl. I think her name was revealed.
Oh, I don't remember, but yeah.
And Lightning's voice actress was revealed. There was
the voice acting for what it was in Japanese was quite good. But here's the thing, right? So. I mean, okay, Final Fantasy 13 is the game I'm most excited about overall
Same here.
games.
I mean,
but at the same time, this trailer was move on. Like, there was nothing to be excited about from an objective.
They were obviously just padding it out again. I mean, we know this playable demo is coming in March, and I would have liked to see more of that in this trailer.
Well, actually, that was the thing. At the end, they did a long Advent Children demo and they actually showed some cool. I like Advent Children. Not a popular opinion, but I enjoy Advent Children.
And the new Advent Children Complete showed some of the new scenes, actually.
Okay, so first of all, there's new scenes in Advent Children. There's also going to be a new short movie.
Right.
That was announced only in text in Japanese, so people might not pick up on that. But it's it's 2 years after the events of Advent Children, so those who are excited. But the game will have that there were more saying, here's Final Fantasy 13 again. P.S. in March, spend 7,000 yen on Advent Children. You get a demo.
All right, so what about the other same deal? I'm going to guess the other 13 games are all the same deal. Okay. It's just like teaser, bunch of more baloney, no gameplay, no actually what's going to happen with the game. No.
Agito? Is that where we're going next?
Well, or Agito, which has been turned into, I really believe it's been turned into a Monster Hunter game. I really think it has.
That's because you've heard that, right?
Yeah, you saw it. It's 4 characters fighting action. It used to be a card game. It is not a card game anymore.
No, there's still cards. There were definitely cards.
You're equipping cards.
There is a menu that said the word card on it.
No, but you see people's like
John's falling asleep.
You see people's like a palette and it's like fire, cure, attack.
Agito, all we have to say about Agito is that it's a real game.
It's a real game.
That's worth noting. Otherwise, it's totally unclear.
Okay, but the Versus 13 trailer was largely recut things from last year's trailer, but they did show.
There was a lot of real time.
They showed the real time
cutscene,
and the real time character models are among the best I've ever seen.
That's the thing about this. The Mega Theater is that there was sort of a let's show real time graphics, but there was no proof of concept gameplay. That was kind of what I would say is sort of an overall theme.
Right.
So is Versus 13 still PS3 only?
In fact. Whereas the Final Fantasy 13 trailer ends with 4 PlayStation 3 only, the Versus 13 trailer ends with 4 PlayStation 3 only worldwide.
Yes.
Yeah. Really. No. Bum, bum, bum. So that's the end of Nomura-chan's Magical World.
Was that it?
Yeah, I mean there was like some mobile stuff, but who cares? But in the other realm of Square Enix, we have Star Ocean 4: The Last Hope, which is really good.
I actually I was sad because I really wanted to play it. I didn't have much time.
It's playable. You didn't play it?
Well, there was an hour-long wait, and I didn't have much floor time. I watched people playing it, but I don't have an educated opinion. I'm cautiously optimistic about it. Like, it looks really good.
Well, Star Ocean 3 was a disappointment, and Infinite Undiscovery was also a disappointment. But I will say this does look better than Infinite Undiscovery. I'm worried it comes out.
Did you play it, Shane?
I did, but
So you played it. So Star Ocean 3 had it was one of those things that's it's like 3 bites of delicious food, 1 bite of shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, my problem was I felt Star Ocean 3's combat was fundamentally flawed.
Right. So
this seems to be okay from what I sampled.
Okay, so here are the flaws in Star Ocean 3's combat. first of all, was the guts, where you like would run out of energy and you couldn't move. Was that like a big? Is this alleviated?
It seemed to be alleviated in the demo I played.
The other big problem was that you would be fighting into enemies who were like in their recovery animations and stuff like that.
That seemed to still be there a little bit, but not as horrible. Because like in 3, you would knock an enemy down and you'd wait like 10 seconds for him to get up, and you couldn't hit him while he was getting up.
And especially because you run out of energy, it became like a really bad push and pull where you were just fucked. So
I mean, and I think the graphics are pretty good. They're not like the best. The lighting's really good, but the character models.
I actually have to say that like I had been anticipating better graphics than what I saw on the TGS demo.
The lighting's really good, but like the character models could use more polygons.
I wouldn't even say the character models were my thing. I saw the like environment, which was like sort of like the glowing blue lights ruin-y sort of thing, and I was just like a little bit less.
It doesn't live up to those original screenshots we saw, at least in motion, but it still looks really good. I'm excited for it. I like that series. I like how modern it is, how futuristic it is. I'm excited for it.
Certainly, and then something interesting I found was I talked to Yamagishi, the producer of the game at Square Enix, and they are using Square's CG to do the cutscenes rather than so it's actually Square's internal CG team. So like that's actually really promising. Obviously, as everyone knows, Square is like pretty much the best at CG movies.
Okay, I have to jump in about Star Ocean for a second because first of all, I like Star Ocean, and I also. Well, we'll stick Star Ocean. One of the interesting questions Jeremy asked was, will this Star Ocean, since it jumps back before 1 and 2, which the plot, spoiler alert. If you don't want a spoiler on 3, you should turn down for a second. Okay, so Star Ocean 3 kind of negated 1 and 2 by dismissing it with a plot twist. He asked whether or not this one, when it went back, would also buy into that plot twist, and the answer basically was, yes, it would, but what it would do is be part of an explanation of how that
reconciles it all together.
Exactly, how it sort of explains why they did that the way they did it. I'm trying not to be even more spoilerific, but why they did it the way they did it, and help to tie it together some. And I disagree. I mean, with your comments about the art style, I thought it looked good. In fact, it's really interesting to me to see that game be the game that's sort of becoming the torchbearer for the excellence of Japanese role-playing games on 360 compared to some of the other titles that when you look at them, like, I think we're all in agreement that some of those,
other titles?
The other 360 RPG titles.
You mean like ones that have already been released, not upcoming ones?
Well, and upcoming ones. The
Last Remnant.
Yeah, that's
less said about Last Remnant might be the best for everyone involved.
I know, isn't that sad though? I mean, because I think it's evident. It becomes more evident the more we see of it why they stick to the CG stuff, which is a shame. So Star Ocean, I think, is a really good game. Don't get down on it. And the combat is different in that game, and it's an action RPG. It's not a traditional RPG. I think you have a lot to look forward if you like Star Ocean.
All right, Garnet. While we got you on the mic, I'm going to just say 2 words.
And Aya Brea is awesome. and 2 was, I like 2. I realized it wasn't as good as 1. Dude, Parasite Eve 2
was
not
seriously
garbage.
Garnet Yakuza 3.
Oh,
dude, I'm going to run away now.
What do you mean you're going to run away? So
a lot of Hawaiian shirts in there.
Okay, so first of all, you walk into the demo theater, and it is an izakaya.
My biggest disappointment of this show is that I did not go into the Yakuza 3 demo theater.
Oh, no matter how long it takes tomorrow, if you have any inclination, you should go check it out.
Did you get to see the hostesses at least outside of the theater with their
the girl in the red dress, the hottest booth babe of all time.
And you didn't go inside and see the 2 babes in the white dresses inside, babe. I'm telling you, they were.
So okay, more game. Okay, I want to know. I didn't see it.
Well,
dude.
first of all, okay, so I adored Yakuza 1, and one of the most disappointing things for me about watching this trailer was that I don't understand enough kanji to be able to see what was going on story-wise, because the demo inside the izakaya took about 25 minutes, and during the first 15 minutes...
Was it real time? Was it like game?
Well, yes, they did have that part in there. There was about 15 minutes during the beginning that it was all just CG parts, and they were like going through all the story parts. And if you're into the Yakuza story, if you're into the whole...
I love Kazuma Kiryu. He's a great character.
Oh, man. He's so cool. So he's down in Okinawa to start the game, and he's still protecting the daughter of his... Was it his cousin or his brother that hooked up with the Oyaban's concubine?
Right.
Anyway, so he's down there. Tragedy... Long story short, he winds up also back in Kabukicho in the midst of a Yakuza gang war.
Kamurocho.
Is that the proper name?
Yeah, that's the fake name.
Well, I apologize for being wrong. There's just so many things about this game that they're doing right. Like, it really has become definitely, in 3, to me, at least from what I saw, absolutely the spiritual successor to Shundu.
Here's my question, right? So,
yes.
I downloaded the demo of Kenzan, which was, 2.5 or whatever. The old school one.
That's different.
Right. So here's my question, right? That was just like sort of a high-res Yakuza 2,
yes.
like gameplay-wise. Like, does this seem to... Was there anything they showed you that made you say... Because, I mean, I love Yakuza gameplay. I think the series is great. But did they show you anything that made you go, wow?
Yes. What they showed me and that made me go, wow, was the drama that took place in the story elements of it.
The story's great.
And the quantity of content that they want to build into it. I think that everybody's who's out there just casually looking at TGS coverage is going to look at the game and say, oh, well, it looks jaggy around here. It's flat lit. There's not as much detail in this as I want to see. It doesn't look as next gen as title, insert whatever here. But I think when you take this game in the whole, you're going to be really impressed with it because there's so many elements to it. I mean, when they were talking about, when they broke down the parts that had gameplay, I took some quick notes that were just, there's a full golf game. There's a full golf game with a swing meter where you're down in Okinawa on a, full legitimate golf course playing golf. There's an entire game of billiards. You get to bowl. There's still the batting cages. There's darts. There's still gambling. There's just it so has all of those.
Did they show combat at all? Like, was there?
They did show combat.
Okay.
So first of all, the first thing you're gonna notice is all this blood. Like Shane's talking about, like they're showing this, like where you used to hit guys and like they'd rebound. Now you hit them and it almost has like that Fight Night sort of blood splatter coming out of the dude's mouth, and he's all blah or whatever, right? But they also have on top of that, they have a lot of special effects in the combat. So you hit a guy, there's like a flash, and there's it's very.
You mean like heat moves?
Yeah. Yes. There's heat moves. It's very stylized. Another thing they showed that I thought was really cool was, you remember how like you'd be walking down the street and a guy would come and tap on you and want to fight with you? So now when that happens, there's like a little quick QTE, so that like if you're paying attention, guy comes up to you on the street, hey, like, screw you, dude, I'm gonna fight you. Like there's a quick up QTE, and if you do the QTE right, then you're able to not be surprised as badly. We were talking earlier. We were talking about the Chicans, right? There's a scene that they show where like this dude comes up and gropes this girl, and Kazuma like whips out his cell phone and he videos the chick who, like, as the dude gropes her, she like pulls this crazy like judo move on him, like, elbows him to the gut and then flips him. He videos that, and then that becomes a move that he can go back to his dojo.
So it's
and
sort
learn.
of similar to, like, okay, so Kenzan had this thing where you would observe things happening and learn new moves through like.
So that's kind of the next evolution of this. You pull it on your cell phone through videos. There's also a training mode where you'll be like in just inside a ring training with your sensei.
It's amazing. I mean, just in terms of like like the one-up show about where you guys all talked about Yakuza 2 and I watched, like, I don't think we could communicate to the listeners. Like, you got to play these games. Like, you really have to play these games.
Yeah, I would say you absolutely have to play these games. Please, if you're in North America or somewhere over in Europe and you haven't picked up Yakuza, and especially Yakuza 2, go pick them up. They're fantastic games. I think that Yakuza 3 will still probably come to America. What's up in the air right now is how much do they spend on it? In Japan, they spent an entire 5 minutes talking about the voice talent, and you could really tell when you're watching the cinematics how much effort they've gone to go out and get really top caliber cinematic voice talent to do this game, and that didn't happen in 2, but in 1, I mean, Shane, you liked 1 a lot. That was terrible. You liked 1 a lot.
I got a quick question. So, no, I'm actually just, have the NPDs come out yet that say if Yakuza 2 has sold or not, and not yet?
They're probably out while we're here, right? No, it's next week.
I'm really curious
next
if
week.
that game's going to sell at all or what.
It's really tough because on top of everything else, it's a PlayStation 2 game that doesn't have a tremendous marketing support behind it, and
without having been able to say anything, like to return to sort of the point you were making and sort of John's dancing around, I think a little bit is, well, sort of related. So John is saying, like, okay, if 2 doesn't sell well enough, they may not want to put 3 out in America, and you're saying,
I think it'll come there.
And you're saying, like, they don't want. And John is, I don't know if you can hear registered that he thinks 3 will come out. Garnet saying that they may or may not elect to put it out based or dub it. Is that what you're talking about?
I think what's up in the air is how much money do you spend localizing this thing?
Well,
I mean, you've got this fantastic game.
Let's talk about what we know about Sony and what they allow companies to do at the end of the generation that they don't let them do in the thick of the generation.
Right.
And one of those things through
Take
process
risks.
of elimination is dub games or not. Like, I think that like they probably let Sega get away with not dubbing Yakuza 2, not just because of fan outcry. I think a much larger reasoning might be that because it was sort of the end of the PS2 and they're desperate for games to an extent, like high profile or like full quality games. But with Yakuza 3, I mean, sure, there's room on the Blu-ray for both soundtracks, which will be like a great benefit to anyone who wants to play original Japanese. And actually, I want to say that I love the dub of the first one, but Sega may not have that money this time, and it may not be. It might be a limiting factor.
Okay, enough Yakuza. Did anybody check out Dragon Quest IX? Was there any presence at the show? Because I know I haven't heard anything about it. And
there was a brief trailer. That's it.
Did you see it?
Briefly.
How you briefly saw the brief trailer, and how was it?
It looked like Dragon Quest IX. It looked like Dragon Quest IX. I wonder if it's really coming out in March. I don't know.
Was it the same trailer we've seen? It was the same stuff we've seen before.
Yeah.
Somebody said that, but then I was on the net today and I saw another trailer that was completely new.
Really?
Tons of new.
Maybe
footage.
I hadn't seen the last one. Like it looked. It's the new Dragon Quest IX. It's not the action based Dragon Quest IX. It's the turn based.
Right. Oh well, I don't. I mean, it was just a bunch of footage. There was a lot of anime footage mixed in with showing how the characters actually display whatever your whatever equipment you have for them. But that's it. I want to know more than that, and that's why I was hoping.
It definitely wasn't
something.
It wasn't the focus here.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Square had two video screens. They had the closed mega theater, but they also had the open screen.
It was on the open screen.
And you watched that?
I only caught the tail end, so I didn't see much of it. So I'm very excited for that game, but it seems like a long way away to me. I don't know.
Well, didn't you say?
It's March in Japan?
Yeah, Wada said in March.
For fiscal year. So
yeah, March.
I mean, I hope it comes out by November in America next year.
But I mean, in March we'll know at least. If there's nothing else new until March that comes out, we'll actually have the game in our hands in March.
I know that's John's favorite thing ever. So yeah, you should go to TGS tomorrow and look at that video, John. Okay, I want to talk about rewind to the first day of the show at the big keynote. I wasn't there. Garnet was there, but so. Afterwards, I kept asking people, "Hey, what happened? What happened?" Because I heard, Blu-ray drive might be there. Who knows? And the first things people said to me was 99 Nights 2, and I was convinced they were fucking with me, and they weren't. It was really announced. What the fuck?
Did they show it?
They showed.
Nobody wants to talk about 99 Nights. Everybody's passing the mic.
They showed the box art.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Dude, it's the weirdest. It was really
that game
weird.
didn't sell it
I have to say that as a game announcement, it was one of the strangest things because in the midst of all the 360 or all of the Xbox stuff, it's like, we're doing 99 Nights 2.
Did you see who's developing
Next slide, please.
Did you see that it's the Lost Odyssey developers?
I believe the subtitle is Contractual Obligation, 99 Nights 2.
Yeah, but it's
Think and Feel?
No, Feel Plus.
Oh, whatever.
Think and Feel is the people who made what?
Well, never mind. Think and Feel. It's Feel Plus. So, but they're developing it. Is that not? What is that? Maybe.
Is it a game that anybody asked for? A game that anybody particularly wanted? Is it a game? I mean,
well, here's the thing.
I think that's why you're asking.
No, it's a total. It seems like a total error.
Can we just skip forward to 99 Dynasty Warriors or 99 Warriors or Dynasty Knights?
Right, okay,
Dynasty Knights. That's it right there.
All I'm going to say, yes, it seems like a mistake, but Mizuguchi can actually take a quick train trip to Feel Plus and smack someone in the head. So, good
true.
sign, comparatively. That's
okay.
It. Nothing else to say.
All right.
What was their bigger announcement, Shane?
Halo babies.
Well, I mean, it was really like
Halo
the whole
babies.
morning. Halo babies.
I don't get that.
Halo
3
Recon.
Recon. Yeah. I think am I the only person here that can actually talk intelligently about Halo 3 Recon? Or
Yeah. That's why you're here, Mark McDonald.
Luke Smith was on this couch earlier, but he left.
He was.
That's true. Well,
He had drinks to drink in Roppongi.
and they can't really say much about it either at this point anyway, I guess.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things that we can tell you about it. First of all, there was a lot of confusion out there as to whether it would be a downloadable title or a full title or whatever. It will be a retail packaged product, but the aim is not, I don't think, for it to be a full scope game.
Right, exactly. Like they've taken great pains. They've said on their website, like, this is not the only thing we're doing. This is like
right.
Does anybody here think it won't be $59.99?
Yes. I absolutely think it won't be $15.99.
I agree. Absolutely.
If I had to guess, I would say $39.99.
I think once you call it Halo 3 Recon, it has to not be $59. If you call it like Halo whatever, like, you know, Gaiden, like Darkstorm.
Okay, I would say that Rainbow Six
EX
Vegas
Alpha.
2, Rainbow Six Vegas 2, should that have been a $60 game? I mean, like...
Well, but that's the thing. They're not calling this Halo 4. They're not calling it the next thing, and they're saying over and over again, this is not the only thing we're working on.
Is Ubisoft Microsoft?
So the stuff that I got out of the trailer, and of course everyone speculates everything out of the trailer, but is okay. Actually, this is kind of funny because earlier this week, Shane and Garnet, we were just bullshitting around drinking, and you guys are like, "Oh yeah, that third-person squad shooter." And I'm like, oh, really? And they're like, yep. You both said it at the same time. You're like, yep, 100% confirmed, like, no question whatsoever. One of the first things they said, I guess, in their press things today is like, nope, it's the Halo 3. It's first person. It is not squad-based.
We were talking about a different Halo SKU.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a different Halo SKU.
Dude, like,
anyway.
Shap was not, like, playing innocent about that. He said they have multiple Halo products out there. I mean, this is a big franchise for him. It's not like, here are 2 glimpses of what we're doing out of the 27.
I see. Wires just got crossed. So, yeah, of course.
Mistakes were made.
Right. So the ODSTs, like, they're like,
the orbital drop shock troopers.
Those are the guys, if you've seen the trailer, that come in. They've been in the Halo games like from time to time. They're kind of like the super badass guys.
I thought it was just Master Chief with a different hat.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, he is like
that'll be your face. Avatar. Your avatar will be: do you want the Recon hat avatar, or do you want the Master Chief hat avatar?
Anyway, for those of you who's still listening that give a shit about Halo rather than just making fun of it. I think it is speaking to the fans. This is not the game that's going to be like, hey, this is going to grab like the wide audience for it. But for people who know Halo, people unlike you who aren't like ODST, like what the fuck is that? The ODSTs are like the cool, badass, like super crazy, like Green Berets of that universe. So like getting to play as them is exciting for Halo people. And some of the other stuff that people are gleaning out of the trailer is stuff like maybe the kind of dark light sort of hunting stealth, maybe some stealth kind of gameplay out of
Metal Gear Halo.
I wouldn't go that far, but like some of the stuff they were talking about originally for Halo 2, the very first time that didn't end up making in the game was something like, you know, maybe people see your flashlight or you see theirs and hunting them, and in that brief clip you see the brutes walking through. You also see kind of like a new HUD display, something where you're calling things out. Night, like the music swells. The music in that thing is totally awesome. I think it totally made that trailer, but like it's dark and it's raining, and I think that might be something towards like John's like queuing it up on the main view screen right now.
I did watch this trailer, and it implied to me to take place on Earth. Is that true?
Yeah, it has to be. I think this is basically like we're going to give you guys, it's going to be the ODSTs who are the badass guys you haven't been able to play. It's going to be on Earth, which is the stuff since Halo 2 that people wanted, and in Halo 3 you got a little bit of it, but not
everything
really
you wanted.
Even there.
Like
the urban environment.
I've said that all along. I mean, I think there's still sort of this unfulfilled, I want to be on Earth, defending Earth from the Covenant in a major city.
So, and then the other like implication is you're no longer like you're still the badass super soldier. You're not the like 7 foot tall like mega super duper man. So like, what does that mean for exactly? You're not a super duper.
You're not a super soldier. You're a super duper soldier.
We heard you the first time, but so like, what implications that has for like the health system, where like Halo was the one that kind of defined the way that almost any first person shooter works right now. Do you have like a recharging magic suit of armor like you do in Halo? I don't know.
And they haven't spoken about any of these kind of details yet?
No, not that I know of. I wasn't in any of the interviews today. I don't think any of us were here, but including Christian Nutt, who missed his appointment.
Okay. I didn't miss my appointment. I walked to my appointment, stood in front of the door, and I saw like 800 people go into the room and decided not to.
Okay, gotcha. So anyway, yeah. That was basically that announcement. I don't think this is definitely not Halo 4.
Hey, but I think it's pretty cool because I'm not as into Halo as probably, and I do actually like Halo quite a bit, but I'm not into Halo like some of you guys are. But I mean, I think it's awesome that there's a campaign mode and that this is actually a full, packaged game that's independent of the last Halo 3. I mean, I think that's A lot of people weren't expecting that.
And the thing we were talking about, which is like that Halo 3 on the level it was a disappointment to me, was definitely the story.
That's right,
and like in this, I mean, it's not very, I don't even know if any words are spoken in the, like very few words are spoken in the entire thing, but like the implications for the story where you're like back on Earth and as this thing, it's like I'm interested again in the story. Whereas Halo 3, I'm kind of like, okay, love story with Cortana. Okay, maybe I was silly to like this in the first place, story wise. But this I can kind of get into.
Do you feel a little bit like though, like I'm coming into it kind of with the same feeling, but I'm also kind of feeling like I was so excited about Halo 3 story and I got burned. Right. Should I not be feeling this way right now? Is kind of how I feel.
I mean, who can tell from one teaser trailer?
Sure.
Know?
Well, I hope so. I'm excited about it.
I just want to ask, as a Halo fan, right? And I'm not disparaging either game. Do you feel like with Halo Wars coming out like early next year and this coming out late next year that like Halo is yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely a huge danger. I mean, I think, there's like a novel every other month. There's like, POG games and like there's DVDs that come with them and you're seeing all this stuff. I think that's definitely a concern. I mean, you didn't hear anything for like 2 years, and when you heard about the next Halo thing, there was like a huge palpable sense of excitement, but so I think that's part of the whole thing that happened at E3 with the run up to whatever that didn't happen and then it got announced later. I think like kind of an artificial build up happened for this thing that it doesn't, this is not the second coming or fourth coming, whatever you want to call it.
But the fourth coming
is like a mission pack, basically.
Exactly.
But it's something, so it's something for the fans to get excited about. But if this was the only thing Bungie was working on, I would be like, really? Like,
or it's a live test of what might we want to include in the next one.
Well, and they're making great pains to say, like, in addition to other projects, we're doing this. I think one thing that could be interesting, and I have no idea if they've spoken to this, is for multiplayer. Does this mean so you have your Spartans, you have your elites, now also you have your ODSTs, and maybe you have your brutes or something like that? I don't know what it means for multiplayer if it's just new levels and people are reskinned. But
what do you mean? You mean whether they're redesigning multiplayer to incorporate these new elements?
Well, so the new game's going to have both the single-player campaign and a multiplayer component. So I'm wondering, since you're playing this new character that wasn't previously playable in multiplayer.
I mean, here's the thing about this game, right? It's like we have this suspicion, I think, as people who are in the know, that Bungie is on the outs from Halo forthcoming, right? Like, so here's the thing: what you're kind of asking is, are they going to put the effort into this to make a robust multiplayer mode that has completely original gameplay?
No. What I'm asking is, does this mean you basically had X's and O's? I mean, they're all basically the same, but you've had two types of things that you could play in multiplayer before. Does this mean that they're now going to add to it since you're playing like a new main character? Yeah, exactly. Like, does this redefine Halo 3 multiplayer, and for people that don't buy Recon that are just playing Halo now, do you have ODST guys running around? I mean, that's my, just kind of wondering out loud. But
I can't say I personally would be more excited about this if there wasn't Halo Wars and there wasn't the talk of the other Halo, the Peter Jackson Halo and everything else, just because, I mean, it's oversaturated. It's too much. But.
Right. I mean, I definitely do feel like, would there be way the hell more excitement about this if you weren't hearing about that other stuff like every other month and stuff like that? Yeah, definitely, sure. But I also do feel like it got built up because there's like the whole countdown clock, and then that didn't happen, and everybody's like, what is this thing? And that, there was a lot of teaser stuff and stuff like that.
Okay, number one, it's really odd that we're sitting in Tokyo talking about Halo. I mean, that's pretty odd.
Well, it was,
yeah. I think that was really. We haven't really talked too much about just Japan industry in general and stuff. We're talking specific game impressions and everything, but I thought it was pretty interesting that they chose to actually have Tokyo be the first place to show that game. I
think it was a matter of, if it wasn't at E3, like, what's the next major big? It's kind of like
they can't wait till GDC.
Gears being announced at GDC. It's like, wait, GDC. This is not E3, but E3 isn't even E3 anymore. Look at what Nintendo did.
That's true.
Yeah, so
the explanation that John Schapper gave me to that was that TGS, yes, it is a Japan game show, but it's also a international stage.
Sure.
And that they felt that this was the right place to make that announcement. They had the spotlight there. They wanted to reaffirm that this is a global stage and that Japan is not an isolated place where they're just doing Japanese-centric titles and just doing Japanese-centric motivations.
I think it was smart from a strategy standpoint too, though, because I mean, all we were talking about the first day that stuff happened was Microsoft this, Microsoft that, Halo this. There was nothing to talk. There wasn't much. Sony, to me, seems to me like they did not deliver what they needed to as far as the show.
11 unannounced games.
Yeah, are still unannounced as far as I know. I mean, or not. I mean, and I'm not dogging Sony. I mean, I wanted to see more out of this. I wanted to see the Eco Teams game, which I guess was not there, right?
I mean, I think you could question, like, should Sony have had a conference at the beginning to sort of lay down, like, boom, 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 here's what it's going to be. I mean,
Well, here's the other keynote we didn't talk about. We talked about what Shapert said, but we didn't talk about what Wada said. Now, Wada he's not only the president of Square Enix, he's also the president of SEISO, which is the Japanese game industry's governing body. And what he said is, hey, we got to admit it, we kind of lost it. You know what I mean? And that's a serious thing to face up to. I think it's great that it's being addressed. I think that I still feel like that Japan was sort of expecting the PS3 to be the beginning of the generation, not the 360, and that's kind of where the bump in the road was hit.
That was a fascinating keynote. Actually, Sam and I sat there and live blogged it. And I mean, so on the one hand, we kind of poked fun at the fact that it took Wada took an hour to say some very basic points, but it shouldn't be overlooked within the context of the marketplace here, how big it was for him to stand there and say, here's the evolution of video games. We were the progenitors of this whole industry, as many would agree. We have Nintendo, we had all of Sony, we had all these powerful things in our favor, and we've sort of squandered that, and we've fallen behind times, and we need to take radical steps to really move forward that. And part of that is breaking traditions that we've had before and really working together outside of just, I'm Capcom, I'm Namco, I'm Capcom Team 1, I'm Capcom Team 2, and building the best game content that we can to get back on top of what we're doing.
It's nice that they noticed that now, but the problem with this year's CGS, even though it's a lot better than last year's, was it's still more of the same. It's a lot of DSRPGs more than ever before. This is the show of DSRPGs.
Here's the thing, right?
But going on, but also it's more money-headed 360 games, a few PS3 games, but really and some of those big gamble DSRPGs like Suikoden didn't go over that well. That booth was always empty. You go by, no one cared.
Actually, you know what else was really empty, and I think it's sad it was empty. It was Nostalgia no Kaze, which is Tecmo's 3D RPG. I want to say it's by Matrix, or is it
or Neverland, or no, Matrix. Zillow is the Wizard of Oz game.
Anyway, it's a really cool looking game. It's a very cool, nostalgic 2D RPG, but 3D RPG, with the old 8-bit styles or 16-bit kind of. But here's the point, right? The engine technology to build for these games was underestimated by the Japanese developers, and as Garnet was alluding to, is that Japanese studios had not had a collaborative style. To make games in this day and age that are really competitive, you need to have reusable technology that you can share between your teams, and you need technology that's mature and versatile, and that is not how Japanese companies had developed. You have to think about these people were ignoring the 360, and they developed PS2 games, and suddenly they're thrust into this world where incremental PC development, in America is 6-month increments of improvement, and they're still catching up. But at the same time, it's good to see that not only does the industry recognize it here, but that the developers are actually rising to that challenge. It may be late, but it's not like everyone's saying, let's give up.
They're getting their act together now.
I think every major publisher has something to say for this.
That was also evident in the second day of forum stuff that I saw today, where there was a talk from the CEO of Turbine about MMOs and Facebook and how this all needed to come together. And it was predominantly an audience of Japanese game developers who are very interested in asking questions even about how do we do these things? How do you see them go together? The one question I'll bring out was they ask about, okay, so if I'm working in an environment where I have multiple IPs, how do I make something that works for all those IPs online? I mean, they're really struggling with these questions.
Well, it's interesting because, this is something that a lot of people are struggling with globally, is sort of bridging the gap between social networking and gaming. And I mean, I've been to so many seminars about this kind of stuff in San Francisco and elsewhere, where people are discussing these issues, because web developers understand social networking, game developers understand gaming, and they have things to contribute either way. What a lot of people don't realize, and it's probably not that important, is there's a lot of mature online gaming in Japan that just isn't, communicated outside Asia. But it's getting this all to work together is difficult. I see Mark is looking at something else.
I'm just at Shane. I want Shane.
I want to do. Oh shit!
Whoa.
Fuck! All right,
party foul.
I want to do some quick hits.
Yes.
I have some things I have to say. King of Fighters 12, 2D high res. I'm excited it exists, but next to Street Fighter 4, it seems outdated.
You just pulled my comment.
It really does. I mean, because Street Fighter 4, it's everything you want. It really is.
Well, okay, Street Fighter 4 is everyone wants, but King of Fighters 12, I have to admit, I was disappointed to see how jaggy it is, but at the same time, it does look like a good, solid game,
I hope I speak for more people. I want to know more about Street Fighter 4. What happened? What was the deal with Street Fighter 4?
Well, the Crimson Viper cosplayer was amazing today, but so
that's what everybody wants to know.
It runs fine. They added Sakura and they added Dan. Both. They had both there, and they both look fine. It's fine.
This year in Japan.
Yeah,
and
they're
adding
Lei Fei. There's more characters. I think there's even more characters coming. Yeah, Street Fighter 4 it's a home run. It's going to re-energize the franchise.
Also, at the Capcom booth, did you notice? And it's playing in the background right now. Bionic Commando was in a closet. There was a small, I think the janitor, they had to pause the demos when the janitor came back.
Now any game that is Zero D, which is mature rated, you have to show your driver's license or passport to see it.
You were telling me about that.
Bionic Commando's looking better, I think.
Okay, never mind. What I had to say was dumb. But yeah, I mean, I talked to Ben Judd about Bionic Commando and their expectations for it in the Japanese market. They're not high. That doesn't mean that we should be ignoring it, though. I mean, just because it didn't get a high presence at TGS doesn't mean that Bionic Commando
it's solid. It really is a good game. Yeah. Ben Judd's a great guy. It's a good game.
Yeah, buy the game because Ben Judd's a great guy.
All right, moving on. Marvelous had a game called Little King's Story. It looks really
Marvelous
cute.
has a lot of good
stuff.
stuff.
A lot of games.
Marvelous is I think a company to keep your eye on. I mean, the thing is, they have a very small U.S. presence now. They've sort of started up in partnership with Xseed, blah blah blah.
Right,
but they have some interesting games. Another one, Arc Rise Fantasia, is another solid looking RPG. I was happy to see it has some really. I mean, I didn't see that much of it, but it looked like a good solid RPG.
Yeah, and Little King's Story is very Pikmin, very very Pikmin.
Pikmin, really?
Very, very Pikmin. You're moving around little guys and changing their position, and it's like Pikmin.
So how about No More Heroes?
So they wheeled out Suda 51 to announce No More Heroes 2.
Was this the big game that everyone was talking about?
It was, and the trailer was 7 seconds of nothing with Tim Rogers playing guitar, and it's for Wii. Tim Rogers playing guitar in the trailer, and yeah, there's nothing to it. It's for Wii. They just said nothing about it. Who knows? It's big whoop. I don't know. It's just, it sold 500,000 copies, so they made a sequel.
But so there was some talk about there was some other game unveiled for WiiWare by the Doshin the Giant guy or something.
It has a one-word title. I forget the title.
D something. Yeah. But so everybody was talking about this on the net for the week up leading up to TGS, this big game from a worldwide designer. You think it was No More Heroes 2?
Oh, that was it. I was there for the big reveal. That was the big reveal.
Really?
That's it. I mean, it's cool, I guess. Okay, moving right along down the list. First of all, Murasama Demon Blade by Vanillaware. It looks beautiful. It's nice.
Looks amazing. Is it going to be crazy slowdown?
No, it's just really simple. I played it. It's super simple.
Super simple bad, super simple good.
Super simple pressing one button over and over again, but it has really good graphics.
Really?
Yeah. Gameplay is definitely disappointing.
I want to ask about that.
All right.
I want to ask about that. Okay, Odin Sphere, compared to Odin Sphere.
I didn't play a lot of Odin Sphere.
Okay. But moving on, a lot of games we liked a lot in the past, pressing one button. I mean, right. Sword. Yeah, you know what I mean? A sword is on one button.
It's something refreshing and it's nostalgic and the graphics are really cool.
Okay.
But
that's all I want to say.
I would have liked a little more to the gameplay. But it was a short demo, very short demo.
Tenchu on Wii?
I didn't play Tenchu on Wii, but the graphics were better than I expected. Neither of us played it.
The mechanic works, so they work.
Yeah, I mean, I know Garnet's a big Tenchu fan.
I'm a big Tenchu fan, but besides that, I thought the mechanic was well adapted there with the Wii controls.
All right, here's one that I'm really worried about, and that's my good friend Koji Igarashi's Next Generation Castlevania, starring Alucard. All that was shown was a 10-second long CG clip.
Wait, what? No, keep going back. Refresh my memory.
You obviously didn't walk past Konami's big screen, because once every hour they showed a 6-second CG clip of Alucard for the new PS3 360 Castlevania.
Are you shitting me?
What worries me are his track record on PS2. I love Symphony of the Night. I love the DS and GBA games.
No, I mean that's the thing, right? Okay, so
he doesn't have the budget. He doesn't have the team. Like you need a lot of money and a good engine and all the artists to make a good 3D next gen game.
Did they say it was 3D?
Did they say a damn fucking thing?
They didn't say anything, but they showed a little CG clip.
Of Alucard, was it looking like Ayami Kojima art? What does it look like?
Yeah, it looks good. The art looks good.
All right.
So I wish it the best. I hope it is the best game ever made.
Are we sure it's a real deal game and not like a download, like a PSN live?
Allegedly, it's a real deal game. I wish it was a download game, just because I think he'd be better at a high res 2D game. Also on my list, I have Ni no Kuni, which is really
I talked about this before,
deal.
and Mark went like ape shit on me for like a second.
It is the biggest deal ever because your god and savior Shigeru Miyamoto could not release a Studio Ghibli game, and Mr. Hino will release a Studio Ghibli game.
This is interesting. Level 5. Let's just talk about level 5 for a second in general. Level 5, like what the fuck? Where did they come from? 10 years.
I'm just afraid their hubris might be their undoing.
Okay. Is it hubris, or have they actually achieved the feat of becoming a real major player in 10 years? You know what I mean? Like going from, remember when Dark Cloud 1 was first announced and we're like, who are these fuckers?
Right.
And then seriously, now they have like a booth at TGS that rivals like other major games. They have their own publisher in Japan. They're putting out Roid, this like electronic toy.
It's like Steam. It's like a download service for their games.
So like, I mean, here's my question. Like, is level 5 like the next big thing?
They are here in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically like the Japanese EA. Like, they're making a huge play right now. And, yeah, I mean, they have Layton here, which is huge. They're doing the Dragon Quest games. You could argue, and I don't know, and I've talked to people about this, like, how much of Dragon Quest 8, Dragon Quest 9 is them, and how much is it's just given to them. Here's, do this, program this, do that. But it almost doesn't matter. I mean, they're definitely making money. They're making great games. They're the games that everybody's talking about, White Knight and DQ9, even especially in the Japanese market. They had that announcement recently. The stuff they're doing with that Roid thing, I almost don't understand how they're doing it, because you can play on your PC. You can play games that they made for the PSP and the DS on on your PC and through your cell phone. Like, is Nintendo cool with that? Like, how does that work? Like, it seems like they're definitely like,
there's got to be something.
They're thinking progressively. They're definitely being aggressive. Stuff like the game that they're making with Studio Ghibli and the Spellbook, which I think is a fucking brilliant idea. And you're right, everybody, and I mean everybody, has tried to make games with Studio Ghibli here. The studio that made like Princess Mononoke, and almost anybody would recognize the art style if they saw it. Right, Walt Disney of Japan, and they're the ones finally doing it. I mean, they're releasing a lot of titles. Even their like soccer sort of RPG game is really popular here. They're making a sequel to that.
They strike me as the only Japanese developer of like this current generation that still kind of has the excitement and like the innovation of like all the Japanese developers back in the 90s and even the 80s. Like there was Konami, there was Capcom, there's everyone. Now it's like the only new fresh developer is level 5.
Yeah, they've been there for like the next year. I mean, the closest thing you could say is like they're being what EA was maybe in the mid 90s. Like they're just being super aggressive and really.
But it's all RPGs, which is a weird thing. Here's the thing. I love JRPGs, and like, man, everyone I talk to at this show in the press, in the Western press, is so fucking down on JRPGs. Like, well,
they kind of. I mean, besides a few games, I can't argue with people when they feel like that they're not evolving.
I feel the same way. But
nobody knows how to make one until Final Fantasy 13 comes out. I completely believe everything's B level.
All I was gonna say is, I mean, leaving aside,
you have some fire, because that's the only way to know how to deal with a troll.
Moving on, like ignoring the point about FF13 and whether or not we know it's good, I kind of agree with Shane in the sense that like, so people say, JRPGs, whatever. But I feel like, it's the same as any genre that you do or do not like. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of games in most genres are basically B-level games. So,
just like I won't argue with somebody that if you're somebody that looks like Gears of War 2 and you're like, oh, it's a Space Marine game, I'm like, okay, yeah, it is, but it's a good game.
Right, but I mean, okay, I'm talking about like Prey or Jericho or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Right. Well, and I think, but to any people, it's the same thing. Like, they look at Final Fantasy even at 13 and they're like, okay, that
which
looks
is
like
fine,
a very Japanese
and I
character.
agree with that assessment. I just like want people to recognize that that's just the genre isn't disinteresting them.
And I think, and I'm a casual fan, but I think even 12, like people still haven't really caught up to Final Fantasy 12 in terms of trying different like new stuff.
Shane did a double thumbs down 12.
Thumbs downs. But
I'm not a big 12 fan, but I agree with you saying the 12.
Whether or not you're a fan of it, like I think you have to say like it did something different and interesting with its combats, right? Like so, but I think a lot of other games are still content.
2/3 of the game until it got boring. But yeah, go on.
Okay. Anyway, I think a lot of games are still content to go back to more or less different variations of like 4 or 5 different combat systems that have existed since the early 90s.
I don't disagree that the genre could use some evolution.
Yeah. And World War II shooters aren't stale either, right?
All I was asking, actually, though,
again, I'm not going to argue with
exactly.
you.
So,
right.
I just my main point is like level 5, right? They're sort of on the upswing, but does the company have limitations? I guess is my point.
Right, like they're not making like crazy, games of all kinds of different.
Because you're talking about Konami in the 80s, 90s, or whatever, back when Konami meant something.
The PSP cardboard game is kind of weird, actually. I never saw that one from them. But it's like a
Don Borosenki or whatever. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah. Okay, we got more quick hits. Did anybody play Klonoa? I meant to and I failed.
We Klonoa, right?
Klonoa was in Namco's booth. Did you play it? No one played it. I don't care about Klonoa. Klonoa is awesome. Other Namco game. I got to play Tekken.
What last 2 of them? Like what?
The GBA games? Those are the last 2.
No, they sucked, but they were different than the. All I'm saying is I like Klonoa 1.
Klonoa 1 I think. I played Tekken 6 Bloodline Revolution, the arcade version. It's still Tekken. You press back to block, but the new characters are really cool, especially the robot girl who takes her head off and uses it as a bomb. Hands it to you. And it's a big deal that they announced it for both 360 and PS3. That's a big deal.
Is it? Is a multi-platform game a big deal in this day and age?
Tekken's been associated with PlayStation for a very, very long time. So Namco continues to be multi-platform, Demon's Souls by From
Software.
Did
you play Demon's Souls?
I did. I waited in line for 30 minutes.
So I want to tell a little story real quick. So Shane had to review
Kingsfield 4.
Kingsfield 4 for EGM.
I famously called it spooktacular and gave it a 5.0.
When we were roommates in 2002.
Yes.
And in our apartment...
It had the best soundtrack.
In our apartment,
by one of my favorite composers.
Used to open our dishwasher, and when the spring would creak, he would stand there with a look on his face like a dog hearing his master call because it reminded him of the Kingsfield 4 soundtrack.
Which is the best part about Kingsfield 4. Okay,
that's just weird.
Sadly, Demon's Souls isn't really the second coming of Kingsfield. It's
the second coming of our dishwasher?
It's third person... And the combat is more action-oriented. You dodge around.
Wait, so it's third person. Is it like Evergrace or Forbidden Kingdom, whatever?
It's actually a bit like Oblivion, but third person.
What?
Yeah.
No.
I played Oblivion.
Is that superficial or is that meaningful?
It's slightly meaningful, but it currently has a horrible frame rate.
By like Oblivion, do you mean like a made for Sci-Fi Channel movie, or by an RPG with large open environments and open-ended gameplay?
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. But it's very monochromatic, has a 10 frames per second frame rate, and sludgy controls. So
next.
Sounds just like not coming to America.
Next.
On my list here also is Dress, which is one of the 11 games that was announced from Sony.
Dress. Wait, did they really announce 11 games?
I don't know. It's one of them, but did you see it?
I don't
It's
know.
a fashion designing game for guys made by the creator of Tourist Trophy, who came to my Halloween party last year. And it's completely
Polyphony Digital?
It's completely retarded.
Polyphony Digital.
Yeah, I can't believe it exists.
Polyphony Digital.
Yeah, I can't believe it exists.
Nana made the Dress game?
Yeah.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow, from Motorcycle.
Isn't that crazy?
This is interesting.
Yeah, ridiculous. It's...
Nobody of course knows who we're talking about.
It's a
friend of ours who is the last guy in the world you would expect to be making a dress game.
But it's a fashion designing game for men. In Japan, it might work, right?
Got married.
It's crazy.
The thing, Tokyo is very fashion oriented.
A lot of purses on dudes. John has a purse. I've seen it.
Dress.
That's probably it right there.
Dress.
They also announced a horse racing game online has shitty graphics.
What the fuck? This is so
lame. They announced
lame.
a how to play guitar game for PSN. They announced a garbage-based dropping puzzle game called Gomi Bako. It looks kind of cool.
Wait. So I heard that's garbage Tetris. What is that?
Garbage Tetris.
Literally?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Mark wins the mic.
This is so lame.
So, yeah.
I'm near the end of my list.
Oh, go for it. Finish it up.
I think.
Wrap it up. Was home a big part of Sony's booth?
Actually, I was there for the Sony press flopperance, as Gav calls it, which wasn't even a real conference. And it's funny, the U.S. press wasn't invited. We had to sit back behind as they showed it.
You had to pretend to be Japanese.
They showed the home spaces for Gran Turismo. Garnet's on the phone. Alex Evans from Media Molecule. Does he have a message for one of your listeners?
That's great.
The creator of Little Planet is singing karaoke over Garnet's cell phone.
Yeah, so Shane,
that's great. Okay,
saying.
So they showed the home spaces for Gran Turismo 5, Resident Evil 5, Hot Shots Golf 4, and Street Fighter 4, and some of them are really cool. Like the Street Fighter 4 one, like Chun-Li is in your house, like playing with Awesome Dolls.
Really? Is Chun-Li played like a live operator somewhere?
She's like walking around your apartment.
It seemed to be that your main character could dress as Chun-Li, I think.
Oh. Really?
Camera was following as though it was your main character, and the table was covered in Dawson. What did Alex have to say?
It was the creator of Little Big Planet calling Gardner from karaoke. That's impressive.
Something I find lame about Home is the fact that they have basically said that different territories will have different content. And fuck that. I want the content to be totally populated across all territories. So I want Dawson Dolls on my fucking table if I want Dawson Dolls on my fucking table.
Okay, I appreciate that. Whoa, why am I not hearing myself here?
Garnet's,
mic fix. Okay, so I appreciate where you're coming from. I think part of the problem that they're trying to deal with is that the server load, when you're talking about created levels, is going to pile up to such a degree that having them cross-linked across all the different territories.
I disagree. I think it's Japan saying we're Japan and we want Japan to be our Japan shit. Like, I really think it's more territoriality, the inability of Sony's international offices to work together and collaborate.
Alex may kill me for this, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of channel that might have the top starred levels from different regions.
Wait, we're talking about Home, not Little Big Planet.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Little Big Planet.
No.
We're talking about Home.
Yeah.
Oh, the Home's a mess. Don't worry about that.
You and your phone. The demo? Home's a mess. Don't worry about that. Thanks,
Did you see the demo? The demo was awesome. The demo was awesome because, like, there's this woman who, like, takes you virtually into a conference room and sits you down at a table and describes to you how you should chat to one another. Like, so all these people are like,
wait, no, Garner, actually, I want to go return. Are you saying that the international levels from Little Big Planet won't be available to the users of the different territories?
That's already been out there. Yeah, everyone knows that.
I don't know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah. The problem is, like, every individual territory is on its own server segment based off of
But
Sony
the top rated
regions.
levels might populate. Okay.
Yeah, you might see that. It's possible. Anyway, the Home thing was funny. Did you watch the Home demo? Where like this, there was Proctor who guides you into a conference room with like this group that's supposed to be having fun, and the having fun is going and sitting in this conference room while she describes to you all the great chat functions. Home is so strange. Home is really in a weird spot. I don't. What could they ever do to fix it?
Shane, do you want to take the mic and defend Home here?
You imply that it's already broken. You haven't really played it. You're prejudging it, and it will continue to evolve. So, this kind of outlook, your kind of outlook is pernicious and uninformed and dangerous.
And Chun-Li will be in your apartment, so you have that to look forward to. In addition to the one guy in the lobby probably dancing,
playing checkers.
So Shane, are we through the big list? What else do we got? That's it. Do we go through all 11 games in the Sony section?
Well, there's like Mina de Spelunker, which makes me want to die.
Yeah, wait. So where the hell did Spelunker come out of?
Do you know that Spelunker is actually, the funny thing about Spelunker is, and anyone who's actually played it on the NES, it came out in America, knows it's garbage. But in Japan, it's garbage that sold like 2 million copies. So everyone here treats it like a big hilarious joke that like they all like Spelunker from when they were kids, but it's terrible. Like it's recognized that it's terrible. And IREM had like high quality, expensive Spelunker figurines at their sale booth.
Okay, that reminds me of 3 more things I need to talk about.
Yes.
One of which is the amazing R-Type towel I bought in IREM's.
I bought the bear towel. What was the bear towel for?
Well, I'm getting to that. First, there's an awesome high-def remake of R-Type 1 and 2 for Xbox Live
But it's
Arcade.
secretly European.
It's secretly European, but it's still R-Type. I know you love R-Type. I didn't... Really? I didn't know that I could do that.
There's a towel.
There's a towel.
There's a towel.
But the other sad thing is, I played this today. It was the last game I played.
No, there's not just a towel. There's 2 IREM towels. We bought different IREM towels. Moving on.
Yes, Garnet, is this really important? Really?
Does the towel come with peanuts?
The last game I was assigned to cover today it kind of broke my heart a little bit. It's Otomedius Gorgeous. Because, Christian, as you know, I'm a huge...
Okay, so how is Otomedius Gorgeous? I did a drive-by, but I couldn't tell.
Well, first, I am the consummate Gradius Life Force Parodius.
Okay, Otome means maiden in Japanese,
right,
and Dias means Gradius, and Otomedius means like maids in space.
And you might know what Gradius is. It's like the granddaddy of side-scrolling shooters.
If you don't know what Gradius is, just turn it off.
And then Parodius was a series Konami made back in the late 80s, early 90s. That was like a parody of
Gradius. Gradius, fucking 2D shooter. Move on.
So Ultimedius is hot maids shooting things, and it's another remake of Gradius.
A new game, though. It's not a remake. It's a new game, right? The problem
is, it looks like a high-res PS2 game. In fact, it kind of looks worse than Gradius 5. But it is fun, but it costs like $70 here, and it will never come out in America, and it should be on Xbox Live Arcade. And what's even funnier is the version that comes with an arcade stick that replicates the touch panel is $280. So it's just like Konami's like, fuck you, nerd.
Well, here's the thing. Isn't how...
What?
Yeah, it has a touch panel functionality in the arcade, and if you're playing with 360 controller, you just use the right stick for that. So if you're a complete asshole, you'll.
Well, here's the thing, right? Japan is all about fuck you nerds. I mean, that's the thing. They overcharge nerds for things.
Well, there's like a new ride.
How is the game just on like a honest level? Is it a good shooter? Because it could.
It's a good shooter.
I would like to see, honestly, and I'm saying this, putting this out there. Konami should make an XBL game in America, like just because it's a sale game here. Wait 6 months, put out in America an XBL game.
If this was on XBLA, I would totally buy it and give it a good score.
It's got to be better than some of the whatever.
All right, so if we're through the list, I got a few questions for you guys who had it. I think it was the towel, and then the R-Type game, and then...
It's the Dunker Sucks.
Right.
The third thing was the awesome Earthquake Simulator in IRM's booth.
Oh, I'm jealous. I wanted to go on that.
Don't leave us with that. Tell us about that.
Zettai Setsume Toshi. There was the first game was Disaster Report. Second game was called what? Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Probably not, but...
no, that was...
it's for PSP, right? Is this third one? What about the game? So, all right.
I sat in the amazing Earthquake Simulator that went to 8.0. It was really fun.
I've been told that those are used to sell earthquake insurance in Japan. That's what they're for.
All right. So if we're through the list, two questions. Surprise of the show. Anything you didn't know before you got here. Something that maybe you did know about it, but it surprised you here at the show. And then maybe it's the same answer, but if your game of the show. To trot out that old chestnut. Game of the show. What's it?
Well, I mean, I can answer the game of the show really easily. It's Yakuza 3 for me, simply because I adore the Yakuza series. Seeing it like so much in its base of power here in Japan, where that it's really appreciated, it's really enjoyed. It has the great voice acting. It has a very receptive market. It all comes together for me there, and I have great hopes for it here. The surprise of the show, I would say, was not a thing, but rather a lack of things. And I really had, based off of the translated Sony pieces of there will be these many new titles, I had high expectations that there would be something else there. And the biggest surprise was not seeing Team Ico.
I ran into Kyle Schubel, who's the U.S. producer on that, and he says it's close. But wasn't there. And
know what?
And good things come to those who wait.
Good things may come to those who wait, but it's still a disappointment that I didn't see it this time.
I really did think that they would bring that out, despite saying a few months ago that they weren't going to show it when they started talking about 11 games. I thought for sure they would bring that out just because PS3 is it has been for like the last year, but this is like, that's why Microsoft is talking about Halo here. It's not about Japan. It's about the race. It's about this fall. I really thought Sony would bring that out as like a cred thing, even for other developers, even for anybody.
You're right. They didn't have to show it. Let's face it. They don't have to show a goddamn fucking thing.
Right.
They just say look, we're making it. If Square is going to announce Final Fantasy 13 17 years before it comes out, yeah.
Right. So that's a good point. We'd forgotten to really talk about that. So Shane.
All right. My surprise of the show was Parasite Eve 3. How good it looks. I didn't think I'd see it real time, and it's the best looking PSP game I've ever seen in my entire life. My game of the show that wasn't playable is Final Fantasy 13. My game of the show that is playable is Little Big Planet. It's the best game in town.
I want to talk to you actually about why Final Fantasy 13 is your non-playable game of the show, because I am just like you. I have the biggest excitement for that game, but seriously,
I watched the trailer today, and while I was thinking it, I said, This game aesthetically is leaps and bounds beyond everything else I've seen here today.
It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how good it looks in terms of like the thought that's being put into this world. That whole, with Pulse, and I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I think my. It's not that I'm not excited about 13, but. Oh, okay. These mics are broken, so I'll talk about it. It's just like, yeah, I'm excited. I'm like, I really want to like it. I mean, I would no. I mean, when I like go into that mega theater, I've been in like a mega theater at this fucking Square Enix party at TGS every year. I get excited every time I sit down to see a trailer.
It's getting so close now. I realize I'll be playing this in 6 months, and like seeing new environments, new characters, new worlds. There's a lot of new characters in that show today.
You'll be playing a demo in 6 months.
Yeah, we'll be playing this game in 6 months. In March, we'll be playing an hour of this game on our PlayStation 3s. There's no region logs on PlayStation 3. But yeah, like I'm really excited the way I've been excited when I saw Final Fantasy X for the first time. Like I trust the people involved. This is one of my favorite franchises.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way, Shane. I just feel like I can't be excited right now.
All right, so Christian, what about you?
What's my favorite game and what's my biggest surprise?
Yeah, surprise and game of the show.
I'm not surprised. That's the disappointing thing about TGS this year is I don't think anything surprised me. I did nothing, Yeah, I was surprised that some Chinese company making called Shit War. Great. I mean, seriously, there was nothing to stand out as a surprise
game of the
to me.
show then.
Ooh, that's even a toughie. I mean, honestly, I
have personally most looking forward to. Don't call it in terms of like anything else, but just game that you saw here that you're personally most excited about.
It's probably that I physically saw, which excludes some games I didn't have time for. Probably Star Ocean. It looks solid.
Fair enough. I've got the really screwed up opinion because I saw 1 hour and a half of the show, but I mean, I can just say from the game that I beelined to actually play and waited a half hour to play Resident Evil, I'm super excited about it.
After you were done with the dating games.
Right, after I made my way through those. But I'm a huge fan. It didn't surprise me except in the graphical department, but like the graphical department, I'm just sitting there thinking about what it's going to look like on my TV, and like I can't wait to play it. From what I hear, it's really, really big game too, really long. And yeah, what I was into the co-op play. I was really digging it. It was definitely like I definitely felt like I was playing RE4 in a lot of respects. Like I was aiming, headshots at guys through the windows and stuff like that. Like you said, Shane, pushing bookshelves and stuff like that. But you know what? That's still new enough to me. No other games have really done that. Even like Gears, other games that have borrowed elements have done it enough that I'm tired of it yet. So I'm happy to take that with more RE story and like some of the best graphics I've ever seen on anything. As far as surprises,
99 Nights 2.
Right. That's got to be my number one game. No. Yeah, I guess there wasn't too much on that respect. I mean, there were a lot of games that I really wanted to play, like the R-Types, the new R-Type game that I didn't really expect to happen, and Spelunker was certainly a surprise, but not too excited about that one.
I want to say the surprise is it's kind of all interrelated to me. I'm surprised that WADA, as the head of CISA, which again is like the organization that represents all Japanese developers, said we're not bringing our A game. I'm surprised the developers are not bringing their A game still this far into the generation. And on that note, I am pretty surprised that Tecmo is doing that shooter.
Yeah, I will say, like, Bayonetta is another thing that like the trailer really impressed me just completely on graphical quality. Like there was so much shit going on. It was totally crazy. I think it was a little Vag centric. If you've seen that trailer, it's like a little like, okay, we get it. Like her bathing suit area is like 2 inches away from the camera for like 90% of it, but like graphically and action wise, tons of shit is going on. I really want to see more of like what it plays like. It wasn't really at the show, I guess, though, like in much of a forum. So, yeah.
You stuck with us. I'm impressed. Way to go. Dude, by the way, Shane.
I did.
The chicken soup chips are kind of.
Yeah, and on that reminds me, we should probably apologize for a lot of this podcast, just because we had 2 mics passing around and lots of other things going on. And
hey, folks, I did the best with what I got here.
Right.
So if you don't like it, blame Andrew and send him a note to that regard.
Right. If you don't like it, blame Andrew.
Well, he's the producer. He should be here.
And he was not here, actually.
Right. He's totally not here to produce. See what happens when
Mics got unplugged. Mistakes were made. Yes, indeed. But hopefully there was enough out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We love you. Thanks for listening. So hey, Mark, what do you think?
I'm over here.
Do you love? I was looking at John. Are you going to come back on? Are you going to be in L.A.? Are you going to come back up?
I don't know if I'm going to make it to San Fran, but I serve at the pleasure of one of yours. Anytime I can do it, I absolutely
will. We love you up there.
Of course.
John, thank you so much for hosting us here. You have a beautiful place.
Thank you.
I love it. Thanks for our host. Thanks for Bill to watching the levels when I was standing outside. Thanks to Shane for just, I don't know, being Shane. You had a list. He had like a 2-sided list. So he did an excellent job. Thanks.
How long did we run?
We ran 2 hours, about 2 hours. 2 hours.
Yeah, I would say thanks to the listeners for putting up with our crap, because I know about half of that was just rambling on about.
I will say a lot of expats here have said that we make their train rides worthwhile, and I'm like, really?
Yeah, well, train rides can be tough. I don't know. The Hibiya line was pretty tough the other morning. Remember, Shane? It was pretty packed. Yeah, it was really sick. And thank you, Christian from Gama Sutra. You've got upcoming interviews. How many we have? Oh my God! Are you goddamn bad? I hate that mic. That mic is the one that has the bad cable. No, here we go.
I can't even tell you how many interviews I did at the show. Just please look forward to them. And Brandon Sheffield, too, does great interviews. He was all over the place. We're going to have tons of good content from TGS in the forthcoming times.
My apologies for the bad XLR cable on that one mic, which we've had to reset about 5 or 6 times now. Anyway, this is Garnet. Thanks very much. Boards.oneup.com until actually, are you going to do a show next week, Shane? I won't be there. I'll be here. Shane may do a show next week. There may be something. If not, we'll make Andrew do a best of. Anyway, you know where to catch up with us, boards.oneup.com. Until next time, this is Garnet saying, we are Ghost Weekend confirmed.